back from our break, and Lindsay, aka the Female Red, will be is out for a while, but she'll be coming back pretty soon. So right now we're down to Sendu and Doradka, who are joining with us to finally hear TMcBee and Gexup's top favorite animated television shows. Well,
yay!
It's an exciting day.
Yippity-doo.
For this.
Alright, because this is what we were saving for the longest time. Just like the Boot Chow Radio podcast last episode, where everybody was dying to know what are Gexup's top 12 favorite games of all time, and you guys finally got it. I never had the opportunity to tell you what are my top 12 favorite animated shows, but since TMcBee only has 10 listed, I'm going to start with only 2, and then by the time I finish my 2, she can finally do her list, and then it will be my turn, and it will be going all the way down to 1. So, TMcBee, everybody, are you all ready for Gexup's and TMcBee's favorite animated television programs ever?
Yep, I'm ready for anything.
Sure, why not?
Jeez, you sound so
The
motivated.
gaming beast has engaged his ears to listen. I don't know. Yeah, sure.
That's more motivation right there. Okay, now, so since I have a bigger list than TMcBee's here, I shall go first. But before we go, before I continue, TMcBee, do you want to do some honorable mentions?
Yeah, sure. I got a few of them right here.
Okay.
So my couple of honorable mentions that, I wish I could put on the list, but just really couldn't decide if they were worthy of my top 10. So one of them is Cyber 6.
Nice.
Number 2 would be Gargoyles. I know it's a shocker. Could have been higher, but there's other shows I like better than Gargoyles. Number 3, Home Movies. I like the later seasons, not really fan of the first couple of seasons. And and this might shock a lot of people, but Animaniacs is another one in my honorable mentions as well. Even though I know a lot of people love the show, but there's still some things that don't hold up very well. The some of it still holds up very strongly, but there were some segments that were like, not as good as Looney Tunes.
Well, is that all your honorable mentions?
At this point, yeah, I would have to say. I could have gone more and more, but I guess I can just mention it later in my blog or something like that.
All right, because all my most of her honorable mentions was also my honorable mention, except one of them that made it in the list. All right, here's an honorable mention: Kim Possible. I still think that this is the best Disney animated series from the Disney Channel. The next one is the Powerpuff Girls. The next one is The Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. God, I love Winnie the Pooh.
That is a cute one.
Yes. The next one, it's man, this one I'm surprised I didn't put it in the list, but might as well put it in there. Did I say the Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah, you said.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
My very first animated cartoon, along with my brothers, DuckTales. Woohoo!
There you go.
And finally, the last one. It's going to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1987 version. I'm putting that as the last honorable mention because the show just does not hold up. It's just like, excluding the fact that like it's a terrible adaptation from the comic books that Eastman and Laird has created in the early 80s.
Right.
Damn, there's like so much stupid shit from that cartoon that just makes me facepalm a lot. Like,
yeah, don't worry.
The Easter Bunny episode.
It was targeted towards a younger audience at the time because of 80s cartoons where, they didn't really took extreme risks for, shows that were for the older audiences.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were, but, like, not as much. Like, you could probably say the same thing with other iconic cartoons from the 80s and such.
All right, so with that, the honorable mentions out of the way.
all what I want to say to that is I gotta say something.
All right.
Okay.
Fuck you, Gexup, because that show is awesome. So.
Well,
I don't care. Yes, there is the darker version, which I do enjoy too. I like the Eastman and Laird cartoon comic book. But the thing is that I like the cartoon. I knew the cartoon first, and at
Same
that time
here.
I was the biggest TMNT fan, and fucking Bebop and Rocksteady rock.
Oh.
And yeah, Krang rocks and all the shit rocks, yes. And Osaka Yojimbo. And yeah, you can go swallow a big dong. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Because, yeah, but yeah, carry on.
Okay, so with that out of the way, thank you to Repka. Now, I think it would be really cool if our special guest do the numbers for us. So, just like the Boot Out Radio podcast where, like, the special guests say, number 12, number 1. All right, Sendu, you go first.
Number 12.
TMcBee put this in her honorable mentions, but it's a really wonderful show. Home movies.
Oh yeah.
I really think that this is the best Adult Swim program that's been televised under channel. If Quentin Tarantino, the master of dialogue in movies, were ever to make a animated sitcom, kind of like how like there's so many adult animated shows that does this kind of sort of genre, it would definitely be somewhat like home movies because the animation's crap. The character modeling is crap. Hell, I can even draw this thing without even having to look up how does the character look like. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really holds up is just the fact that the characters, has like a unique way of saying these dialogues in these random situations. Whenever something comes up, they always somehow make it amusing. Coach McGurk is like bar none the funniest voice I think I can ever say to any voice actor, because the guy doesn't give that much effort. The voice actor, he doesn't give that much effort of what he needs to say or how he needs to say it. He just bees himself, and god damn it, his voice has become the most iconic voice, one of the most iconic voice in recent animation. I mean, for crying out loud, he's the voice actor for Bob's Burgers. My god, I can listen to that guy all day. What I really like about the show is the fact that Brandon Small, he's a really passionate character who really has a lot of hopes and dreams of becoming a filmmaker. And it's really nice to see how he lives his childhood through these videotapes and trying to make his own writing and his own movie clips by bringing his friends Melissa and Jason, who are always there to do all sorts of these crazy adventures together and just make a movie out of it. And it's just wonderful. It's just like, it kind of reminds me about like when my father finally gave me my own camera. And then like what we always loved to do was like, me and my brother, we like to grab our friends and we just like to make movies out of it. But the way that Brandon Small does it, he's so passionate about being a film director that he's able to come up with like some of the most creative ideas that I couldn't believe that didn't even make it to a movie. Like, for example, like Jason was pretending to be a guy who has absolutely no opinion, and he has to do psychotic therapy to actually give him an opinion. Or how about like the Landstalker, where the Landstander, whatever you call it. He's just like some kind of Viking who's just like trying to adventure on to this medieval times, and then ended up with some kind of princess witch who likes to summon dragons on top of him. Man, these are like so wonderful, and it's kind of funny because like my favorite character, even despite the fact that all of them have a unique charm and wonderful personality, I have a soft spot for Melissa just because, god damn it, she was just like a little sweetheart. She's like that little sweetheart that I used to grow up with. That was always there for like her best friends, like Brandon and Jason. And damn it all, this is like it almost reflects back to your childhood when you're looking at it. Except the fact that like the children, they're just as adult as the adult characters themselves. I mean, for crying out loud, Paula Small, she is the best mother character in animation period. It's just like the fact that like she's not easily amused, But she doesn't even have to try to make you feel entertained by the way she speaks to all the characters around surrounding her.
Oh well, I even mentioned like Apollo Small's mom in my top 10 animated moms out there, and she has like a realistic take on like a single mother kind of approach. So that's why I like things about her, and that's why she earned that spot, like at least in my top 10. So I will agree with you that she has like a unique take in terms of like a single mom in the show.
Definitely, and not to mention, it's always funny that Coach McGurk is still after her.
Or tries.
Tries.
But do you know what? Now that you mention about making home movies when you used to do that, I kind of did the same thing too when I was a kid. Like, as a matter of fact, I remember me and my friends, like, we would do like some like weird videos just with our Barbie dolls and just making some stupid videos out of them.
Oh, I know that. I made actually. I like home movies a lot because it also reminded me of making home movies, and often I did some with my friends also, but often I would just use my action figures and do like stop motion or just move them in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had all kinds of. I had like a mini series that I called Tiger Man because I had an action figure that had like a weird kind of tiger head and shit, but I didn't know from what series he was and everything, so I just called him Tiger Man, and then I made a series of that kind of. And
that's cool.
And it was just a couple of minutes. The first one was very ambitious, well, all like stop motion, and then I even did like a lightning effect with the light. And the greatest thing about that, I gotta upload it because that one, it was like very simple. Like he was then attacked by a couple of He-Man figures, and the fun part, I did it all. That was the best produced one in a sense because it was all stop motion, and I was working on it quite long, and then basically it ended with my mom coming in, and I said, "Mom." It was so great. It was so awesome. Like I have to upload this, maybe probably unlisted or something because it's kind of embarrassing now. But I made a bunch of different episodes, but I remember the last one was where I just fucking I don't care. The last one was like I says like here's Tiger Man and here's the giant. That was me, and then I just basically I had him already his arms and legs off, and I basically just smashed him. That was his ending.
Oh, that's funny.
That's the greatest heroic epos of Tiger Man, and we did so many shitty like home movie videos, and I used it was like because action figures are great. That's why I like Robot Chicken because action figures are great for like stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And oh man, I want to tell you one film that my brother and I made, and it's just like my best friend was the cameraman. We basically tried to make a ripoff of Dumb and Dumber, except these are caveman barbarians that time travel to the present, and all they want to do is to participate in this chili cook-off. But every time they stumble across like some kind of food, they want to eat it, and then we make a funny gag out of it. But nowadays it looks really embarrassing, and that was like, oh my god, that was like when I was entering middle school.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was a long time ago, and I remember that like my friends and I, we used to we were such professional wrestling fans that we make wrestling videos out of them.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Like, I wouldn't go with the wrestling part because I know I'm gonna be like the big crybaby if somebody literally like hits me or something like that. Like, I'm telling Mom.
Yeah, we had the fake fight him and all that stuff, and we were just doing it on trampoline. And we're like, he's the champion. Oh my god, he interfered him. Oh my god, there's this chair shot. Oh my.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. It's just like it was what's really cool is that like we had a video editing program where like on those wrestling videos that my brother and I, we were like pretending to be commentators and we were watching each other wrestling and we were just like making it over dramatic. Oh my god, he got him in the ankle lock. Oh man, those were so much fun. But the whole movies just reflect on like our desire to become filmmakers because we have an abundant passion for watching movies, television series, and even like any other storytelling on the visual media that we always want, that many of us want to try out, but because like Hollywood's so occupied with like big names and stuff, we'll never have the chance. But it's really nice to know that there's a TV show.
You know, don't be so negative. You could nowadays, especially, you can get together a movie, especially if you have a Kickstarter or something.
Hey,
it's-
Lindsay.
I don't like to say anything is impossible, you know, unless it's like physically impossible. But even then, you know, it's like, you know, you should thrive to work for it. If you really want to do it, do it. You know, like you can find a way.
Yeah,
You know,
but-
eventually.
there's a reason why home movies ended up at the bottom of the list. I would say the first season alone. They were a bit of a struggle to watch because of the fact that like they have scribbly animation that just gets hey Jackie and all that stuff, and it just like it really is unappealing.
But that's kind of the charm of the old episodes.
All right, but
I used to watch home movies all the time.
yeah. I can understand why people really have a soft spot for their first one, and I have nothing against that. But the finale of the episode just broke my heart. Where I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's just like
I haven't seen it, so
yeah,
please don't.
it's just like the finale of that episode really broke my heart. That the fact that like it could have, and you know, I don't think that you could make a better ending, but that was heartbreaking after all the laughs and all the joy and all the comfort of watching home movies. You know, the smartest show on Adult Swim, mind you. It just took your breath away like that. Okay, so let's move on to number 11. Who's gonna say the next number?
Number 11.
Reboot. Now-
Interesting choice.
This is the reason why it had to be on the list, because the fact that this is the first time we ever see a fully animated CGI. Okay, we've seen CGI in the 80s and all that stuff, but we're talking about a fully programmed that's fully CGI that even beat Toy Story to have the recognition nowadays to be the first animated now entirely in CGI. It's I'm really shocked at the fact that like you know, Canada has more. Okay, not really shocked because like of course it came from Canada. Canada has a lot more respect for this show than the United States and all around the world. I don't know how it's gotten forgotten over the years because of the fact that like it wasn't it wasn't made in the USA. But excluding that, what I really like about the show is because it innovated this idea that computers, or you know, life inside a computer could actually become a gigantic city, a whole system. And it's just the fact that like they came up with so many ideas of like playing against the user with various video games, and it's just nice to see references. This is another show that TMcBee and I both reviewed on the Legit Animation podcast because of how groundbreaking it was. I remember to see full CGI an animated program like this for the first time. It blew my mind. I was just like shocked at the fact that this show had like a lot of creative ideas, and somehow a lot of people around the world, they overlook at the fact of the level of creativity it took, the risk it took, and even the leaps and bounds that it took with with its CGI technology to animate all this stuff. Also, the characters, they were so much fun. You know, Dot and Dot Matrix and her brother Enzo, and it's really wonderful that like it turned from like a superhero of the day show, which was the first two seasons was all about, and then when they jumped to the third season, when the characters really started to have depth, emotional, and even character development, it became a really serious show towards to the end of the finale, and I really was impressed. Looking at it today, I'm really impressed that they came up with a finale. Don't even look at the fucking movies that came out in 2001. Those were bastardization of the legacy known as Reboot. But what Reboot really did for me was open my mind that, like how like Toy Story made us all want to believe that our toys have life in them. Reboot made us reminded that that made us believe that there is life in a computer. So if our computer breaks, millions of lives in that computer is also destroyed as well. But I just really am surprised at, going back and watching the show and all that stuff, going through like how much they want to battle these viruses, these stolen data, and everything else. How the computer nerds made up this shit, for God's sake. It's just like I love going back to watch Reboot and see like so many of these creative ideas and so many of these references, that these pop culture references that I really overlooked. Like, for God's sake, how did I not realize that they were doing Mortal Kombat for the first time around when I was a kid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days, man, where television was exciting to watch. And it's just the fact that something like Reboot, I don't know how it got forgotten over the years. Probably Pixar really got everybody's attention and made everybody forgot about any other CGI that came before it. But
I guess it really depends on where you live, though, because I know in Canada we still, I think it's still people still talk about it, and we do have the DVDs out, but they're just expensive. I don't have the money to spend on DVDs, like ones that are like $70 and whatsoever. So I think there's still some popularity around it for those who know about Reboot, that likes talking about Reboot. So I guess you just got to find the right people to talk about the Reboot fan base.
all right. So I guess that's all I have to say about Reboot. If you want anything more about the show, check out our review on the Legit Animation Podcast, because we covered almost everything about the show, didn't we?
Yeah, that and home movies. We talked about that for so long. Like, I don't even remember how we were able to sit down for hours just to talk about it.
It's funny because like my first two picks of my top animated series, they turned out to be like the episodes that we already reviewed. So might as well just get that over with. So Lindsay, can you tell us what's the next number?
Number 10. I'm giving this one to Sailor Moon. I have to be honest. And no, I am not going to be Kaiser with his pervertedness on
Retro Kaiser is jumping out of his chair, dancing with joy, saying, "Woohoo! TMcBee is my favorite." All right. Go ahead and talk about.
For the record, I love Sailor Moon.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay.
yeah.
Everyone hug Lindsay.
I have watched it when I was a kid, 1 or 2 episodes. I never got into it, so I
So Derepka and I are the guys in the corner.
I have way too much nostalgia for Sailor Moon to be negative towards it.
Oh, brother. All right, go ahead, TMcBee.
I guess maybe that's the reason why. It's more of a nostalgia thing. And when it came to North America in 1995, that was like my gem, my She-Ra, my He-Man of the show. It was like that. And that's how I saw it. So I remember watching so much Sailor Moon as like I was maybe like 8 or 9 around that age, I guess. And I just took a first glimpse, and I just love the show that we can have, female fighters that fight bad guys, even though it can be the same shit over and over. But then sometimes in later seasons, it can surprise you and have these like dramatic moments, or maybe the cool special attacks that they do. So, and I think the best part about Sailor Moon were the sailor soldiers themselves. They call them Sailor Scouts in North America, which it sounds a little bit campy, but you expect Dick Entertainment to screw the dubbing. But you know what? I kind of have a soft spot for the English dub because I grew up with that. And you have a lot of, and I know not a lot of people love Sailor Moon as a character because she's the crybaby of the group. She's whiny, and I can understand that. But what about the good stuff about Sailor Moon? What about the one that she has a strong heart to keep a lot of her friends like feeling positive, or that she wants to help maybe even villains that are struggling to be good and having pure evil, like giving them a second chance. Well, except for Queen Beryl, because she was just too fucking evil to begin with. So I don't know. There's just a lot of things I love about this show, and there were some really interesting Sailor Soldier characters that I really love. Like I even mentioned it in my top 10. And of course, I loved Sailor Mercury as a kid. Like she was my favorite because of the computer tech and blue, and she has the short hair, and she was just adorable. Kind of remind me of me having this innocent look. But now I'm getting older. I kind of like Sailor Jupiter more. I think she's a lot cooler. Hello?
Yeah.
I'm-
It's funny. It's funny. We were just like, it felt like we're ignoring you. It's just like you're like, hello. Everybody abandoned TMcBee.
We're not ignoring. We were listening politely.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Yeah, it's okay. I was just afraid, like, if I went offline or something like that. But no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
But yeah, the only reason I picked Sailor Jupiter is because, like, not only she's like the typical tomboyish of the group, but she also likes feminine stuff too. And I think as I've gotten older, I think I relate to Sailor Jupiter the most in terms of her the way she likes, cooking, and like she wants to have like a lot of like she likes girls things, but she also likes boy things too. And not to mention that, since I grew up watching the English version of Sailor Moon, I prefer Susan Roman as Sailor Jupiter's voice. Like she's just the perfect English voice cast for Jupiter, in my opinion. So yeah, I guess
I agree.
yeah, like I couldn't really get to her when it was the Japanese version. Maybe it's because she sounded too light or something, but it's still acceptable. But I don't know, Susan Roman just seemed like she just had an iconic voice for Jupiter, and she even said, like, it's interesting when I researched about the voice actress that she has said that what's great about Sailor Moon is that each of these female characters have their own interesting personalities, and I think that's what I loved about Sailor Moon was each character had their own personalities, and even I guess that's just what I enjoyed it, and I guess that's my thoughts. That's my top 10 choice. And for those who haven't read the Legit Animation blog when I mentioned my favorite Sailor Moon characters, there you go if you're interested.
All right. So number 10 for me, Sonic Sat AM.
Of course.
Yes, I know. I have talked about this show time and time again. You were saying something, Cindy?
Wait, which one? The just Sonic or the Adventures of Sonic or Sonic?
Fuck the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Please watch Sonic the Hedgehog. Or
I did. I was wondering if you meant that or Underground or that one.
No. Sonic Sat AM. That's what everybody calls it.
The one
To
with
each
the
their own.
Robotnik.
Yes, I know.
You were just teasing, right?
I never heard that. I don't use that saying to call it, and they all sort of fit that category.
Now, this is a show that I'm pretty surprised that did not even follow up to the video game continuity at all, like almost any other video game into an animated series. But what I really find most interesting is that they came up with a very interesting take on environmentalism and also like the fight for freedom and all that mumble jumble stuff that like us Americans like to celebrate with our stories and time again. For a show that just took a simple character that just runs around and saves animals, they made a complete overhaul change over the character with this very show. Sure, Tails wasn't helping Sonic as much. He was more like a student or apprentice for Sonic. But other than that, I was really surprised. It was darker than it was completely much more darker than the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog show, which was really confusing at the time because they were both airing at the same time when the show was still going on. Something about the show really strikes me really hard and deep. It's inspirational at the fact that they really wanted to go full force about how much they really care about the environment and how much they really want to save all these citizens of Mobius from being roboticized. Basically Dr. Robotnik, he was like fucking fucking evil in this show, where he basically conquered already the world. Jeez, man, it's just like it was really dark when you were like at that young age, seeing like our characters' friends and families getting roboticized and becoming their ultimate servant for Robotnik and everything. And not only that, it's just like what I also like the show is that many of the characters in this very show, they never made it into the video games, any of the video games at all. Bunny Rabbit, Princess Sally Acorn, Antoine, Rodder. These were like a cast that I really thought were really Sonic's friends. Fuck Amy and many of those other Sonic characters that stagnate the video game series. The only other video game characters that I really wish that made it into this video game series, if they ever were to make like a third season that a lot of fans really wish that would pretty much be Knuckles and probably Shadow. But other than that, for what the show was for its only 2 seasons, it was epic. It was basically my Star Wars before I was even introduced to Star Wars.
Wow.
I was just fascinated to see what is a post-apocalyptic metropolis world like. And basically this was my only show that I got a chance to see for myself. It was really emotional to see these characters going through like the struggle of like fighting a great evil like Robotnik, who already taken over the world, and more than ever they want to overthrow him and bring back the freedom that they all wanted to have. The freedom fighters were really passionate on this motivation of like getting their world back. And even I also love the relationship between Sonic and Sally, which still is like one of my favorite romantic couples ever conceived in fiction. I don't know. It's just like they started out as like childhood friends that just bickers at each other. They had to go one way or the other. One does the plans and one does all the action, and he's impatient and everything. But then towards to the end of the series, they had their final kiss together that felt like completely magical for me. And I remember watching that final episode when I was a kid. It was like the best at that time. It was like the best series finale until they gave us that cliffhanger that we were all expecting to see in the 3rd season. That never happened because of the fact that the show got canceled, because it was airing at the same time that the Power Rangers was also being aired at ABC. I think it was ABC. But whatever channel it was up to like the children to choose either Sonic the Hedgehog or Power Rangers. Well, Power Rangers beat them in the ratings, and not to mention like sometimes the show couldn't be aired because there's a football game. This is the reason why we had to move away from fucking Saturday morning cartoons, because the fact that like there's a lot of television programs that really need to show like sports events, and then like when it's supposed to be our turn to watch cartoons, and then we have a sporting event that actually have to be aired, it just ruins the moment, and sometimes it makes us think that they're not even it makes us even forget about like they're still showing the show. And for the fact that like they didn't get the right budget or the money back from airing the show, they couldn't make the 3rd season. But however, I really like the fact that like Archie Comics, who was still publishing the comic book adaptation from the show at the time, when the show was canceled, Archie Comics and Sega still had a contracted deal that somehow they were able to actually continue the story from where they left off from the cancellation of the show. And when you look at where the comic books are at now compared to where the show was canceled, it's like a history, a saga of where these characters bounce back and forth. Sonic is a fucking player. He has more than like 10 relationships in the history of the character. Not to mention, it's like there's so many characters that came and went. They died. Now Bunny Rabbit, and Antoine, they're married. Jeez, that's a lot of things. That's a lot of things that happened since the show's cancellation. But overall, I really think that this one really got me into the sci-fi genre before I was introduced to Star Wars and all the other science fiction films that I'm a fan of today.
Oh, that's really cool. Like, I didn't really see it more as a sci-fi show. I saw it more as an environmental show, pretty much. Like, in terms of like when the first time I watched Sonic at AM, I was all like, "Oh, it's gone dark all of a sudden for this Sonic show," and then it's like there's these freedom fighters that are gonna stop Robotnik and his troops, and it's like it was kind of a neat take, like, and I guess maybe the environmental message kind of made me thought like this has subtlety to it. It's not like downplayed like save the rainforest kind of.
Yeah,
bit.
that's very true because there's like so much complexities for simple cartoon characters like these guys,
Yeah.
and everybody except Antoine, they had like a lot of dimension into them, and the reason why I'm excluding Antoine is because he's a wimpy Frenchman. But when you take a look at the comic book series,
Oh, made someone laugh.
yes, but when you take a look at the
Alienating the French fans of its tail time. Oh, yes.
But when you take a look at
Even-
the comic book series of how much they handled the character, Antoine's a fucking badass. My God, he's a master swordsman who's able to take down even the toughest villains outside of Robotnik, because we had more villains besides Robotnik in the comic book series, and that's what I appreciate the most. I'm not going to say that I really wish that there was a third season of Sonic the Hedgehog, because the comic book series had done so much that there's no turning back.
Now I have a question about that. Is that the Sonic cartoon where they're like playing electric guitars and are in the band?
Oh no,
No,
yes. That was Sonic Underground.
that's underground. But
That's underground, but we're talking about Sonic
Yeah,
the Hedgehog, Sonic Sat AM.
Yes,
Oh, I
that
think-
was
I think-
Underground, Sonic, Sonya, and Manic, his brother and sister.
I just want to say that this incarnation of Sonic the Hedgehog and the comic book series, I would have to say that it's even better than the video games it was based on. You know, I know there's a lot of Sonic fans in our on our site that's kind of devastated to hear me say that, but which would you rather have? A character that just runs around all the time, just trying to stop Eggman, who's the villain of the day in every single Sonic game? Or would you rather have subtlety? A really great examination of where these characters are going through, and how and really well written storytelling and amazing adventures that all these characters are having. Obviously, I'm going to take the show and the comic book series alone, besides the fucking games.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not a huge fan of Sonic today, so it'd be nice to do something a little more subtlety, like in the TV series Sonic Sat AM. Like, that would be really interesting to see.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to add. I remember, like I said that, like, this is my Star Wars before I got introduced to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Also the relationship between Sally and Sonic. That was the very first romance that I actually gave a fuck about, because this is like I'm so desperate for them to actually kiss, make up, or do something that I've seen from the fucking Disney movies and actually make it look like it was bracing. And my God, at least the comic book series just went far beyond from where the show left off.
That's cool. Yeah, I could see that. And that's your choice, and I'm okay with that because, like, everybody has their own opinions and such. So
Yeah.
I haven't seen Sonic Sat AM in years, and it'd be nice to revisit them when I get the chance to watch
Yeah,
them.
it's a miracle for me to find the DVD, the DVD of the show, of the entire show, because my God, I don't know how many times I watched some of my favorite episodes again and again, because it just felt like a complete experience for me. All right, Darevka, what's the next number?
Number 9.
For me, Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
Chip
Rescue Rangers! Okay.
I know that
Okay,
theme
that's
song in German and in Hungarian too.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I guess the reason why I had to pick Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers is sort of in the same line of Sailor Moon. It brought an impact in my childhood. And I think this is one of the Disney shows that I think, in terms of Disney tune, still holds up very well today. Like, this is a show that brought, mischievous chipmunk characters that used to, play tricks on Pluto and Donald Duck in the 50s. And now we get to see them much more distinctive than in this show, being, you know, Crime Stoppers in this big scale world and in their little environment. So I think that's what I really love about Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. Not to mention, they were teamed up with, you know, other characters that seem very interesting and have their own traits too. Like Monterey Jack, the brute of the team. Gadget, the more engineer female character of the team. And Zipper, I guess he was kind of the cute, innocent member of the team. The mascot, pretty much. And then they had like their own, like, they had like their own plane to ride and travel to many places. And I think maybe what I like about it is that there was much more opportunities to make them get into certain situations and in environments that makes the stories and plots more adventurous. And I think that's what I like. Not to mention the variety of villains I found a little more memorable, like Fat Cat and his Croons, and oh god, what's the professor's name? I forgot his freaking Nimnol. There's his name. Professor Nimnol. And then there was also additional villains. So it didn't have to be those two. It can be other characters as well. So, and there was and not to mention that this was a show that I would watch a lot as well. I remember years ago, my closest friend, she had a VHS of Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and we would watch that at her house all the time. so it just that, like, I guess maybe the merchandise brought that impact. Also, playing the NES game brought.
Oh my god, that was a great game.
Exactly.
Sorry, I had to say.
No, it's okay. I knew somebody's gonna comment that. And also, I have a Dell plushie. Like, I got it at a garage sale one year, and I got him, and I'm like, and I still have it today. So I'm like, this is why I like this show. Like, even it does have its wacky, cartoony, typical plots and scenarios, but you know, you still get a great laugh from it. Not to mention, this show had like the biggest pilot episode I've seen that had 5 parts. 5 parts compared to other Disney Toon shows that were out there. And I will admit that watching 5 parts of that pilot episode is a bit too much, and it got me impatient as a kid. But it just seemed very interesting on how it was going to go with it, and just introducing us to all these characters. So I guess maybe that's the reason why I was in that part, because they had to introduce, you know, Chip and Dale, and then also the villains, and also Monterey Jack and Zipper and Gadget. So it was just one of those cartoon shows I still appreciate, and even got like the 2-volume DVDs. Like, I purchased it and, you know, gave them a watch, and you know what? They still hold quite well today. So, yeah, that's all I have to say with Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers.
You know, it's pretty funny because, like, looking back at it, hindsight, you know, back in the 80s, everybody keeps saying that Disney was dying because, like, they couldn't get a good animated feature hit because of poor box sales and stuff. But you know what contributed to Disney's survival? These television programs that they adapted to, like DuckTales, definitely Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, and even Tailspin. Gummy Bears and Tailspin, you know, putting Baloo from the Jungle Book.
There we go.
Yeah.
That was a big part of my childhood. I really liked those because that's for me like the last Disney shows, TV shows that I really got into, because look at what's the Disney Channel now. It's just a bunch of these weird live action shows with these kids and teenagers. And I'm like, how is that still Disney, really?
I know what you mean. There's still some Disney shows, and there's only one I can watch that's still good compared to the others. But yeah, I can see what you mean by that. Like, Disney has changed a lot. Well, that's all I have to say for mine. So, what's yours?
All right, number 9. Fuck you, Durham Code. This is a better show. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2003.
I had a feeling this was going to show up.
Yes.
It's okay. We know you really meant the 2013 or 2012 edition.
Now,
Which is hearing a lot of popularity from, like, a lot of people are loving that. Like, even people around my age are watching the newest TMNT version.
Give it a shot. It's pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna, I'm gonna still hammer it on everybody's head. The original show just doesn't hold up, and it needed an update and a graphic overhaul, where we're able to see like new characters, characters who were exclusive for the comic book series, to finally get themselves a live action show, and not to mention my favorite character coming back, Usagi Yojimbo, and he was so much more badass than the 1987 cartoon that he debuted on. But the thing I really like about the show, it's just like it took like all the things that I always wanted to see from Ninja Turtles, and then just made it a dream come true for me. The characters are incredibly emotional, but not as dark and emotional like the live action movie. That's like the best incarnation of the Ninja Turtles right after the comic book series. The 2003 series, it was fucking fantastic to see, like, finally an animation, a reboot where the animation quality is so much more fantastic. The action sequences are worth a damn. It's like so fast paced that you need to see how they actually animated by the DVD and put it in slow motion on your DVD player. And not to mention the fact that, like, just like the show, just like the comic book series, just has almost everything that I want to see. Time traveling, dinosaurs, aliens, mutants, city gang wars, ninjas, martial arts. God, I can't even think of like anything that the show is missing other than a proper finale, which the original cartoon series had, that a lot of Ninja Turtles fans despise, which we call the Red Sky episode. But damn it all, I really hated it when the series had to stop and they had to change its name to, like, what is it, the not Turtles in Time, Fast Forward to the Future or something like that, and then
Ninja Turtles, yeah, it was Ninja Turtles Fast Forward when they were in the future, and then there was Back to the Sewer where they changed the art style a bit and gave them eyes instead of just the white. That was creepy.
Now that you mentioned the forward one, I think I remember seeing a debut of that, but I was like a little bit older, so I wasn't really familiar with the TMNT 2003, though I've seen the first few episodes of it, and seeing what they did with the futuristic part, it was kind of ridiculous because they were kind of teamed up with like a young boy, and it's like, oh no, it's gonna be one of those shows again. Like, yeah. My pet peeve on certain things in terms of storytelling is when a badass is teamed up with, like, a cute, innocent character. But it just depends on how they're written.
The first 4 seasons, all the way to Shredder's demise, finding out who Shredder really was, and even Karai being the new Shredder and becoming the leader of the Foot Clan. Man, the show was just so much fun to watch. I really wish that, like, I'm not gonna say I wished I was born a lot later and watched this as a kid, but like entering high school and enduring like the horrors of high school, for me, it was really tough to, still feel like I'm incredibly small and isolated from everybody, but at least I have the Turtles along with me who are growing up with me, and that's what I really like about the Turtles franchise, because it's like when you're a kid, you appreciate all the goofiness and all that stuff, and then when you're entering high school, somehow they made the franchise grew up with you, and then they come up with like some of the most awesome, experiences from the comic books, and then you're so eager to find the comic books, and then when you find it, you're like, I'm a man now.
No, I understand. Turtles is kind of like, well, it's like they're superheroes. They started with the comics, and of course, there's going to be a lot of fan base with the Turtles. So,
hey, Gex.
But I'll tell you one thing. That like, even though like the Turtle fan base is split on like liking one series over the other and all that stuff, but the best thing that Eastman and Laird has ever done for the fan base, I mean all of them, was when they did the Turtles Forever, where they basically put the 1987 Ninja Turtles into a crossover with our modern Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that's true.
And man, that was like a fucking dream come true. And it's, I'm gonna throw in a spoiler alert, but Bebop and Rocksteady saved the day, and that made my day.
You see, even you like Bebop and Rocksteady, and I'm pretty
I didn't
sure they're
say
not
I hate
in
everything.
the
I just
2002.
look. I didn't say
Everybody loves Bebop and Rocksteady. You got
Dude, boss, what are we gonna do? Yeah, boss.
I love those guys.
Yeah, they are pretty cool.
They were like Beastman and Trapjaw, basically.
I just had a question, Gexup. Like, what'd you think of the like season 7-ish, Back to the Sewer?
It wasn't as good as the first 4 seasons. That's the reason why I couldn't put myself to put Ninja Turtles 2003 any higher on the list, because God, the likeness and the appeal from the original seasons, it just got worse and worse towards the end, and it's just like I was thinking about excluding it out of this list until I saw Turtles Forever, then regained my love for the cartoon series, which was really wonderful to watch.
That was a good one.
There's one thing we can agree on, Gexup, totally, is that the next mutation sucked balls.
Yes. I would rather watch the 1987 cartoon over the next mutation.
But sadly, it's not even the worst Turtles costume that was done.
Yes,
it's
I know.
Like there was the things like the Oprah show and whatever, where they just hoard out the turtles for every stupid shit.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus
There was also
Christ. You thought the costumes on Turtles 3 were bad?
No.
Number 8.
My number 8 choice is a Canadian show. And this one, I think it stays true to my Canadian heritage, and I just really enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one to the Raccoons at number 8.
I love that show. That show is awesome.
Yes, there you go. I'm not the only one. There you go. Yeah, and of course, it's one of the first few animated shows in the 80s that was made in Canada and became very, very big for its time during that decade. Not only had 5 seasons, but it also had a few TV movie specials as well. And I remember watching this one a lot in my younger days with my sister. So, we just had some, great times watching it. And even just more on the visual look, too. They had some lovely backdrops of environments. And I know it was more of an environmental show, but it wasn't to the point where they're just shoving down kids' throats saying, in a very chirpy...
The power is yours.
Yeah, like freaking Captain America, for example. Let's put that.
Captain Planet, but yeah.
Captain Planet. Oh, sorry, man.
I actually wasn't allowed to watch Captain Planet as a kid because of how it portrayed big businesses and stuff like that, and took things too far.
Oh, really?
Portrayed what?
Yes, I don't know. My parents would not let me watch it.
Oh,
portrayed
okay.
what? I'm sorry.
Hey.
Big B's?
Businesses.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, back to the show. I think, like I said, it's like what Gexup said with Sonic Sat AM. It had subtlety, and the cartoon characters, even though they were anthropomorphic, majority of them, they had some human characters, but they weren't connected with the anthropomorphic animal characters in the show. They were kind of separate, doing their own thing. And there's usually a message at the end, and it's just told with subtlety. And I think that's what I love about this show. These aren't, cartoon characters that go extremely wacky all the time. Sure, you got Burt Raccoon going to his adventurous moments and, loving peanut butter and going, Yahoo! All the time. So, I personally think, but you also have other characters, too. You also have Melissa Raccoon and then also Ralph Raccoon. And also the main villain, which is funny because, what's his name? It's Cyril Sneer.
Not Cyril Sneer, and his nerdy son, was actually good.
Yeah.
So he was kind of caught in the middle.
Exactly. And that's what I love about that villain character, because, he had his greedy moments. All the greedy moments of corrupt, business plans and wrecking the environment sometimes. But at the same time, with Cedric, he kind of, he brought his good self in him, and I think that's what I love about Cyril Sneer. He was definitely one of my favorites, and it's funny now when I look at Cyril Sneer and his assistants, the 3 pigs. literally reminds me of DuckTales with Scrooge McDuck and his nephews. Like,
It's actually funny. I want it's so true, but it was like the more negative version, you know.
yeah, exactly.
It might have been a parody. No, wait, no. They were before. Were they before DuckTales or after?
DuckTales was, I think it was after. Like,
Yeah, I
DuckTales
think it was after.
Yeah, because the Raccoons came out in '95 when my sister was born. So, yeah. So actually, the Raccoons came before that. I love the montage music in this show. Like, it's so 80s, but I just enjoyed it. And also the theme song, Run With Us. Like, that's a very iconic song that everybody remembers from, just because of that show. And it's funny how some people found out that song also played in Hobo with a Shotgun. So it's
That is an awesome movie, by the way.
yeah, I've heard some
Although it's
crazy-
kind of weird to hear that there's a relation between that movie and the Raccoons.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, I don't know if Hobo with a Shotgun was done in Canada, I'm not sure, but maybe that could be the reason. So, but other than that, like, the first few seasons just, you know, were pretty good. Like, it was still a great show nonetheless, despite some episodes I felt like they were just okay.
I hate to leave early, but I got an appointment with my doctor in like 40 minutes, so I gotta be going then.
All right,
Okay.
Sendu, thanks for coming.
Sure,
Talk to you later,
thank you
Sendu.
all. Thank you, Mom.
See you,
for
Sendu.
being-
It was nice having you.
Yeah, so you say. Bye.
Cheerio.
I'd love some thanks.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
Aw, man, that was low when he went out.
Aw.
Just had to say it. I just love it when he brings that up. Okay, let's continue.
Yep. So, what's your number 8 choice, Gexup?
Oh, number 8. Oh, I thought we were number 9.
We're not nine.
No,
Jesus.
no. Okay. It's a tie. It's actually a tie. I just can't take one out of the other because I grew up with both these shows simultaneously. These two shows are the reason why I'm a huge comic book fan today. And that's Batman the Animated Series and X-Men the Animated Series.
Ooh, nice choice.
I love those shows.
They were pretty good.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good shows. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something that is also very nostalgic for me.
You know, it's pretty funny that like I'm trying my best not to bring up Poison Ivy here, but this is the last time I'm ever gonna bring this up.
Okay.
This
You
is-
say it's the last time, but I guarantee you're going to find some way to bring her up again.
Okay, this is the last time we keep bringing her up. Okay, I remember that like when I first saw the show, when I was like around like 3 or 2 years old. I mean, like I wouldn't say I remembered it, but I remembered that I was scared to death of the show, and rightfully so because the show was unlike any other was unlike any other children's programs in existence at the time because it had like a lot of quiet moments. It had like really gothic atmosphere. The art direction is is dark throughout. You're always bound to see a color of black where on every scene of the show, and not to mention it's like the character models are freakishly scary. I remember like Joker used to terrify me and my brother like non-stop every time like he pops out of the screen and starts screaming on the top of his lungs like like he's one of the characters from the Blue Meanie from the Blue Meanie movie, the Yellow Submarine movie.
Yellow Submarine.
Yeah. And
That was an epic.
it's funny because like I got into the show because of fucking Poison Ivy. I remember I first saw Pretty Poison. My very first. I remember I saw Pretty Poison. That was the first episode I watched all the way through, and I really thought that the show was a lot more fantastic than I gave it credit for. When I got older, when I was starting to enter elementary school. And that was around the time when Batman Forever was coming out, and my God, that was so great to have Jim Carrey, my favorite actor when I was a kid, to finally become a Batman villain, and then later on I got into the cartoon show and stuff. And at the same time, we also have X-Men, who are, it's not exactly like the same tone or anything like that, but what I really like about the show is that like it was taking some of the best story arcs from the comic book series. And not only that, the art direction it's like the X-Men from the 80s. And that's a huge compliment I can say, because it really felt like a comic book, turned into an animated series, and it's like frame by frame from each panels from the comic book series. It was like moving character. It's like moving right on the screen right before me now, looking at it in hindsight. But both of those shows used to scare the living crap out of me, because the villains were really, oh man, they were taken beyond seriously. It wasn't like the villain of the day. These were they were legitimate threats to me, and it's just like, it was just like whenever it looks like the villains are like having the upper hand, you really want the hero to win, to save the day more than anything else in the world. And it's funny that like years later, when my brother and I used to get scared of the Joker, nowadays he became like one of the funniest cartoon characters ever. Especially like oh man, I remember like when we were watching Batman Mask of the Phantasm, when he was delivering like a missile, trying to deliver a missile and kill Batman. The phone was the phone that he was calling on Batman was still on, and he was like saying, "Hello, operator." It's like, oh my god, that was hilarious. That they managed to make something that's supposed to be dark to be incredibly light. The flip side of the coin with this character.
Right.
And when we're looking at the X-Men, man, it's just like, I didn't realize it, but it's just like, it was also freakish to see like our heroes are getting despised because they're mutants, and it's pretty unique that they were using a political message that they used throughout the I believe it was the 60s all the way to like still to this day, about like how much they really hate the discrimination about mutants, and they really want the mutants to feel like they're equal to the humans. But the fact that like they have superpowers, and there are evil mutants like Magneto, who really wants to use their powers against humanity. Man, this is like complicated stuff that I really thought was intriguing to watch. And the reason why I couldn't put myself to put both these shows higher in the list is because both of their final season was something left to be desired. I mean, season 4 of Batman, where they changed the art direction to be similar to the character models from, Superman the animated series, that sucked ass. And I just really despise the fact that like what made the show, the Batman animated show, so appealing was taken away for entering the late 90s. And in the final X-Men series, they just couldn't get all the voice actors from the original season to still remain on the show. That just didn't feel the same. But other than that, it was just like these were like some of the most intriguing stuff that I really find very personal. I mean, like, look at some of the best episodes that was released on Batman the Animated Series. It kind of gets you choked up, especially like that one episode called the Underdwellers, where like all these kids were in child labor. Man, that was like some of the darkest things I've ever seen, but I've really felt sorry for all the kids who were not even allowed to speak because the villain looked like he was about to kill these kids if they even say a single word or make a little noise coming out of their voices. Or even like when Wolverine, he has an intense hatred for Sabretooth because they have a long history for each other. And I remember that like they kind of get me choked up when Wolverine grabbed out his claws and he wanted to save Jubilee, and he said, "You like to pick on small people, huh? Well, I'm small. Why don't you pick on me?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah! Do this for the short people!"
Or pick on somebody their own size.
Yeah, that's what that's what I love about the Wolverine character. Even though he's like the most saturated character. I mean, anything that says X-Men, fuck, we can't even breathe without him hogging up the spotlight. And that's how that's how much I like the animated series more, because like they didn't put Wolverine's the spotlight on Wolverine so much as compared to what Marvel's doing fucking now,
Yeah,
to be fair, it's Fox. I must say it's not Marvel Studios, it's Fox. But the comics, though, they do oversaturated him, and I liked Wolverine. I grew
Yeah,
up
me
with
too.
Wolverine. I grew up with X-Men, and I read the comics, but I really enjoyed the cartoon, and I watched to the end. And to this day, I remember the final scene of the final episode, where basically they had the Super Sentinel, and I don't remember anymore how they got there, but basically I remember Professor X flying with the X-plane towards the Sentinel, and then saying something really badass, and then flying out with his hover thing, in the last second, and then
Yeah,
the planes
I saw that.
crashing in.
I saw that episode not
Why
too
didn't
long
we
ago.
see this in the movies?
Yes,
Like
I know.
I recently watched the
And
latest movie.
not to mention Rogue, who is like the best super heroine ever. My God, the live action version of the movie. They
she's
didn't.
so boring.
They
They didn't even have the
made
southern
her
accent.
Jubilee.
Yeah, even my sister thought she was lame too because she also likes Rogue, and she knew.
Everybody liked Rogue. Rogue
Well,
was cool.
she knew Rogue more from the Fox animated show, and I can see why. Because she was a badass. She could carry things and heavy stuff and throw.
Dude, Gambit, who is the best? Who is like the hunkiest character ever? He can't even get someone like her.
Don't get me started with Gambit because it will break my heart. It's like the thing with the live action movies. It's like there has been how many live action movies? There has been now. There's now the fourth one.
I think that's 6 right now because actually 7.
There's 7 X-Men live action big budget movies, and Gambit only gets a little cameo in the shitty Wolverine movie, and that's it. I'm like, fuck you, but Mystique is like, oh, she's naked, she gets so much attention. I'm like, go fuck yourself.
Lindsay, let's move on to the next number.
Number 7.
It's the Critic. The Critic is at number 7 for me.
It stinks.
Yeah, it stinks. How he eats.
Well, I haven't seen it in so long. I did see it here and there, and I did enjoy it, but it has been so long that I felt as a kid, it felt a little bit like Seinfeld as a cartoon kind of thing.
Oh, once you think about it, yeah, it has that
the snark to it, yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I think what's interesting about this the show, is not only that it, does movie parody so interesting with subtle, dry humor and just a lot of laughs that comes unexpectedly compared to other animated sitcoms that tries to do parodies. It even has some really good characters, in my opinion. I mean, Jay Sherman, he's the main character, the Critic, voiced by John Lovitz. And he just brings it all to this character. And I think that's what I really enjoyed with the Critic so much. And he's not, and sure, he's kind of like a bitter character because he gives all these parody like movies or these movies negative criticisms. People just don't respect him, and it's not only that, but also his appearance and other things in his lifestyle. And this is a guy that you kind of feel sorry for because not a lot of people appreciates this Critic. So, like, he has his adopted rich family who just thought he was a monkey when they adopted him. He has his, like, people that's working for him, like his makeup person Doris, and the manager that runs the Coming Attractions show that he stars in. There's Duke Phillips, who, by the way, he's like the funniest asshole-ish characters I've ever seen in animated TV. So, and it's not only just the characters themselves and the humor, but I kind of like the watercolor backgrounds they use and the character designs, like how they just look much distinct to how they look. Sure, the show can get a little messy with its animations, but it's actually pretty solid for its time. And this is a show that's a lot of movie buffs are gonna love. Like, even if it's like some of it is outdated, like this is stuff they're gonna enjoy. Not to mention that, Siskel and Ebert themselves voiced themselves in one of the episodes in season 2. So I think there was more to this show that, not a lot of people appreciated, and it is considered an underrated show, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know what's my favorite joke of the whole series? Oh my god, this one got me and my brother laughing on the floor. I remember it's like he was reflecting back to his childhood when he was visiting his parents. I think it was at the pilot episode, and then he was like, he was like being asked to ride horses, and he said, "I don't want to ride a horse ever again." Why is that? And then he go back to his timeline, and then he go back to his childhood when he was like in elementary school, and they said, and the horse keeper is like, "Now, are you sure that you weigh under 50 pounds?" And he's like, yes. And then he sat on the horse and killed it. He's like, "Bitches, no!"
Yeah, that was a good bit. And then all of a sudden it goes back to the prototype. See the episode of Patches? That's terrible.
My brother and I, we always love to make it a running gag for us. We're like, "Patches, no!" Whenever we're watching a movie where there's supposed to be a dramatic moment, like, those "no" cliches, and we're like, "Patches!" But did you know how Roger Ebert and Siskel and Ebert came into voice acting the show?
Well, is it because they reviewed the bit of the show first in order to...
No. It's actually because there was like this one little joke where like where Sherman he came in the movie theater, and there were like a bunch of film critics who were like in line. It looked like there's a buffet, and they were lining up for a buffet, and then one of the it was a critics club or something like that, right? And then one of the owners of the restaurant, he said, "What? Excuse me, people. This whole buffet is for Roger Ebert only." And then Roger Ebert liked that joke, even though he should have taken offense at that. He said he wanted him and Gene to actually voice act it. And I'm like, that's actually.
He had a good sense of humor. Not everybody is like a wine baby like nowadays.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta just laugh on yourself.
All right, so okay.
That's pretty much it.
All right, for me, my number 7 is The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
No, oh my god, that's a shocker. I wasn't expecting you to put that high on the list.
Now, this is the reason why I put the show high on the list. It's kind of like the similar reason why I put home movies in the list. It has a bad animation quality. The budget production is not even there. And
hey, it's an older show.
Yeah. But listen to me. But what I really do love about the show is the fact that like it had probably the smartest writing of that era in cartoons. This is like, I don't know. It's kind of like when they were watching like something like Stanley Kubrick. I think this was before Stanley Kubrick's, Doctor Strange movie, when they were just like making Doctor
Strangelove. It was something like "Stop worrying about the bomb and love it" or something.
Yeah. Where basically that movie was putting dark humor into the Cold War, and I really like the fact that like it just took the whole environment about being in the Cold War to actually make a living joke out of it. Instead of like putting Nazis and not Nazis, the communists into their story, they just put in like God, what was the place that they were located? I forgot what.
Stan. I know it was something Stan.
Yeah, but man, the villains, they were okay. All the characters are dumb, but that's the part of the fun of it, because I find it absolutely brilliant to see like how much the show felt like a radio show, but they drew it out so fast. I mean, they had to draw everything and illustrate everything to make it look like everything is all happening all at once. And damn, the show just have a variety of not just Rocky and Bullwinkle, but also like the other shorts that they added in between the commercial breaks or something like that, like Fractured Fairy Tales, Dudley Do-Right of the Canadian Mounties, Aesop and Son, Mr. Peabody and Sherman. Oh man, there's so much more, but I can't remember on the top of my head. But
wait, I have an idea. It didn't the same guys, because I wasn't familiar with Rocky and Bullwinkle when I was a little kid, but I was familiar with the show. I think the same guys did, which was Roger Ramjet.
I think so.
Which has very much the same tone. It's like a parody of the Cold War and shit like that.
Yeah, but what I really like about the Rocky and Bullwinkle adventures because their adventure is a saga. It's like episode of episode to be continued, and you're waiting for the finale. But whenever you go to the next episode, it always surprises you. It's like I always love it. Like it's like join us in the next episode when things go down the drain or drown at rock bottom. It's just like, wow, they come up with so many creative ideas. It's just like, it feels like they had hundreds of writers and they just take the best ones to actually put into an entire show. My goodness, even the villain, Boris Badenoch, he's like the most lovable villain I can think of the top of my head. He's like, Natasha, don't you know that Rocky and Bullwinkle doesn't even know that we're the villains here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were pretty cool villains.
Oh man, and as a kid you were like you're wanting the heroes to win the day, but now as an adult, you realize how smart and funny the writing really is. Even Rocky. I always thought it was a girl, but surprisingly it was voice acted by a woman.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's so I'm gonna call her a she because I just don't really like to look at it as a guy anymore. I mean, anymore. But I just always loved that Rocky was always free-spirited and he always see the good in everybody. And Bullwinkle, he tries his damnedest to keep up with the program, but he always end up him and Rocky in the wrong places all the time. And damn it, who's not excited to see Fractured Fairy Tales, Dudley Do-Right, and all the other shorts that always happen in between one episode to the other? Hell, this show has been a huge part of my family personally because, I mean, like in my family tree line, because I remember my grandfather. He really wasn't interested in cartoons since he grew out of stuff like Looney Tunes and Marine Melodies and all that stuff. But my father told me that like every time he turns on Rocky and Bullwinkle, my grandfather always liked to just like join them and watch the show together, and that's pretty nice to know that's happening. And I would really like to continue the family tradition of being huge Rocky and Bullwinkle fans. And make sure that like my future bloodline would actually continue this family tradition. I mean, damn, there's so much story arcs, and I'm just really impressed that the show lasted as long as it did, and I'm still a huge fan of the show to this very day.
Wow, that's crazy. Like, I remember watching a lot of Rocky and Bullwinkle as a kid. And it's funny because, like, I now get the humor right now. Because before it was just, like, just cartoons, just in their adventure. And I wasn't really crazy about it at first because of this whole episodic, to be continues. Like, those were the things that really bugged me more. It's like, damn it, I want to see more of it. But I was kind of like a young kid, maybe 4 or 5-ish around the time. I remember watching a lot on YTV when they used to like air it there, so reruns. So there was just I could see a great appeal for like Rocky and Bullwinkle, but of course you have to be in that. I think you much appreciate it more as an adult rather than. I guess kids can still appreciate it, but they might get a little bit impatient with the whole, to be continued stuff.
Yeah, that's right. And what's crazy? Before The Simpsons even had like the over 300 cast of characters, Rocky and Bullwinkle actually beat them to it before Matt Groening even had his education in animation. I mean, god damn. Each of those shorts, they have a huge cast of characters. I mean, like, of course, Boris Badenoch, Natasha, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and were like the main stars of the show, but that's only backed up to like the huge abundance of characters that's been seen throughout the entire series. Damn, this is such a big show. And out of curiosity, for those who've seen the show, what is your favorite, Rocky and Bullwinkle short?
Oh man, I don't even remember.
Dudley Do-Right in the Canadian Mounties.
I think Gex, so maybe you can go ahead because
for me, I'm gonna say Fractured Fairy Tales because The reason why I like that is because this was like my first experience about like what a parody really is, and it's just like as a kid I'm like, that's not how it goes, and then like years later I'm like, oh my god, how did I not get this in the first time around where they
Guys,
Yep.
so I don't want to interrupt, but I've got to get my stuff together and then get a train back to university. So I'm going to say bye now and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
All right, take care. Thank you for joining
See you
us.
later, Lindsay.
See ya.
Okay, bye guys.
All right,
Bye.
take care.
Bye.
Now, for Rocky and Bullwinkle, I mean, for Fractured Fairy Tales, man, they just love to make fun of anything any fairy tale that's been popularized over the years. I mean, like, for crying out loud, making the pigs being like the bullies of the wolf, or being the or having like God, like, Rapunzel. The prince who was climbing his way up to Rapunzel's hair and ended up seeing that it was a witch the whole time. Damn, these are just like some of the most fun, television programming I have in my entire family, because the show, for its time, it's incredibly adult. Just the way the vocabulary they were using, the way that they move the show all the time, and it feels like a radio show, with the narrator just describing everything that's happening on the show. It was so much fun. It's a classic cartoon that just did the best that no other cartoon around its time actually accomplished.
Number 6.
I'm gonna give this one to Gravity Falls at number 6.
Oh, is it that the Disney show that was trying to do its own take on Adventure Time and the regular show?
And it kind of has that same writing, but I think it has much more than just being, that kind of, Yeah, so it's pretty much, it's kind of like those shows a bit. But
I haven't seen this show, but tell me what makes you put this show pretty high up in this list.
Okay, well, Gravity Falls, first of all, takes place in a sort of forest-like area, sort of like the raccoons, where their locations are located in the forest. And it's and the main stars are twins. You got Dipper Pines and you got Mabel Pines. One Dipper is the guy and Mabel is the girl, and they go to summer vacation to their Uncle Stan's tourist cabin home, where he makes his business of tourist attractions and just showing things that aren't real and just making greedy money out of it. And basically he also has assistants working for him, like Uncle Stan. He has Zeus, who's pretty much the nerdish fanboy kind of guy who would talk about crazy things and over the top stuff. And he's kind of like a human version of Patrick Star to me. Zeus. He's kind of like Patrick Star to me. And then he also has another assistant named Wendy, who Dipper has a crush on, but the thing is that she's a teenager and he's more of a preteen, so it's kind of have this weird age differences. And basically what happens in this show, in Gravity Falls, is that it's not only about the crazy over-the-top humor, but there's also an episodic feel to it, because there's these mystery books that tells all the mysteries that happens in Gravity Falls. So Dipper has found one of the books, and he's looking through all the mystery shit that happens in Gravity Falls. And it does happen in the show. For example, the first episode, Mabel falls in love with this guy where she thinks he's a zombie vampire, cute guy. So it kind of pokes fun of Twilight, I guess, in this episode. Mm-hmm. And then it results this, vampire zombie guy turns out to be gnomes in a costume. So it comes up with the most... Pardon?
Well, I just said of course.
Yeah, of course. So it just brings out some really random things, but also some interesting stuff at the same time. And then there's another book that a character has that's connected to the book that Dipper has. And this character is the main villain, or one of the main villains, and his name is Gillian, which in Gravity Falls, it's a bit of like a forest town, so there are other civilians living there. And he has the second book, and he's wanting his plan to like take all these books for himself, or I don't know, power stuff. It's been a while since I watched them episodically. So, and that's just his motivation, also to get Mabel because he has a crush on her. So, I think it's more on its wittiness, its writing, and just how it has a mystery vibe. Because there's some things that, like how they end an episode, like sometimes it's a bit mysterious, like, wait a minute, that character is hiding something. Like, it's something suspicious. So, and you just want to know more about it. And also they throw in a lot of references too. Like a lot of references I'm sure us will get because it's a lot of stuff from 80s and 90s. Like there was one episode where Mabel goes to like a boy band concert with her friends. But the thing is that when they went to their dressing room, they're like genetic engineered clones. And they were treated like hamsters. So it's just the randomness, but also throws in some really mysterious vibe to it that I really enjoyed with Gravity Falls so much.
All right.
Hello? Yeah,
All
that's
right.
pretty much it.
I'll be honest, I never heard of Gravity Falls at all. This is the first time I'm hearing it.
And there's so many of my high school, so many of my friends who are still big cartoon fans and crazy Adventure Time and regular show fanatics. They also said that they also watched this show, and TMcBee, you did yourself a good job of promoting the show. Now you make me want to take a look at the show.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it because it made my sister and her fiance laugh their butts off. And they're the ones that recommended it to me at first. Because I wasn't too sure at first, but then watching it last year, I'm like, oh my god, this show is like meant for me or something like that. But what else I was gonna say? Yeah, now that you mentioned about people you met that have talked about the show, I'm the opposite. I've met friends or even colleagues at school that don't talk about Gravity Falls that much, yet they talk about Adventure Time so much. And it kind of bugs me. It's like, you guys are missing out on a good show. So, yeah, I guess it just depends on who you talk to.
All right. So, my number six pick, and that is an anime called Elfen Lied. Now, if you took a look at the spelling, it's like Elfen Lied, but Elfen Lied, it's German for, I think it was like a songbird or something.
No, it's Elfen Lied, and it means Elven's song.
I really think that this show really was probably like the show that like I felt like was meant for me, because like I remember like trying to end my days in high school was probably one of the darkest times for me, because like it was the stuff. I mean, who didn't feel like they wanted to kill themselves in high school? I mean, like fuck, high school was a fucking prison, And if like when we finally saw a show where like it was by far one of the most bloodiest and goriest animes since the animes from the late 80s and the early 90s, we actually saw a show that like had like one of the most surprising pilot episodes ever seen in an animated show, because of the fact that like body parts were flying everywhere, gushes of blood was coming out, and you're like wondering, is this woman psychic? Oh, she has a hand, and where's that coming from? Oh, it's an invisible hand growing out of her back, and the character is named Lucy. And what's interesting is that like when she was trying to make her escape from the experiment from the laboratory, a sniper tried to shoot her in the head, but since she was wearing a helmet, it basically hit her so hard that like it caused a second personality on her. And the reason why she wanted to escape is because she wanted to see a childhood friend that she destroyed, that she killed her.
Not too many spoilers, please.
No,
Gexup,
I'm not.
Because I might actually watch it.
I'm not going to spoil
like,
anything, but what I'm saying is like, since she's an escape experiment, the scientists are doing all they can to keep this away from the public, but at the same time making sure that she doesn't spread this disease that will cause, cause the human reproduction to actually create more mutants like her, which is called diclonius. These beings that has horns on their head and they're able to shoot. She ended up with a second personality, and she ended up with a family. A family. I mean, like two college students who are cousins who are in love with each other. Yeah, it's kind of weird that in other world countries they call it they consider this incest, but in Japan it's completely normal. But what's pretty interesting is the fact that for our main character Koda and Yuka, not main character, but these college students, Koda and Yuka, who found this weird girl in the beach, all naked and all that stuff. They really wanted. They didn't know what to do. They brought her in the house, and then for some odd reason, they started a family together. And it's just it's pretty heart touching to see the show really tackles the issue of jealousy, alienation, genetics, discrimination, bullying, and it's just this show is kind of like one of the darkest things I've ever seen. But I couldn't get my eyes off the show because how relatable this show really was. It just it's almost like a soap opera with mutants, and I'm really surprised to see how seriously, incredibly seriously, the show really is, and even the violence. It really takes your breath away. It's just it's like some of the most devastating things I've ever seen animated traditionally. And I'm really surprised to see some of them, some of the best animation I've ever one of the best animations I've ever seen is actually seeing body parts flying off like that. I'm wow, it's so messed up, but at the same time it's so beautifully drawn.
Oh, really?
And I've met a lot of people who were big fans of the show that only like the show because they have a real personal connection with the main character and what the main character is going through. And I really like to see the show like a demonstration of what Japanese society is really facing right now about gender roles where women are no longer interested in being in relationships, men who are actually feeling so isolated. We even have the highest suicide rates in here in Japan, and this anime, it represents the darkest of humanity, but at the same time it just it has that glimpse of hope where after all the bloodshed that all these characters are going through, they still have a sense of this thing called love for each other that keeps them bonded to a family. It's just this is kind of a best representation of family I can even see that was described in animation. It just there were so many moments that it just really puts me into really hard fucking tears. It's just you can't even resist tears when you're watching it. And the reason why I can't put this any higher is the fact that it had probably the most anticlimactic endings ever, where it just didn't end. It's one of those animes that says go ahead and read the manga to get the real anime instead of
Oh, really?
yeah, it's one of those animes. But if you were never bullied or you had the happiest childhood and there was no problems in your life, you're not gonna like this anime. But if you can really relate to how much pain that each of these characters had to endure, you can really feel this is a show made for you, and it's just it's not gonna make you feel any better. It's actually there to actually. It's just something about Elfen Lied does for me that no other program has ever done for me personally. So, with that being said, nobody has anything to add since they haven't seen it. But that's something I wanted the female Red to know, because she's a big anime fan, and I wanted to hear her opinion about Elfen Lied. It's like a soap opera-ish sci-fi with a revenge story in it, but at the same time, it's just it also has a sense of lesson about forgiveness towards the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm thinking is right here is Carrie.
Yeah.
And I always thought Carrie actually.
That's one of the inspirations from the creator of this manga/anime got his inspiration from.
Oh.
Also, I always thought, I have only recently saw Carrie, but I thought Carrie could work in the X-Men really well, because there has been characters in the X-Men that deal with that, including Jubilee, actually. If you think about it, it's not as like dark. I've been also bullied in high school, and I went through a lot of shit. So it's like kind of a wish fulfillment fantasy that you like everybody. You can suddenly you got the power to basically give everybody their righteous due, so to speak. So.
Yeah, but but this is the word to the warning out here. But if you're really squeamish, this anime can really make you feel like you want to throw up. That's all I can say because of the level of violence here. But other than that, Derebka, what's the next number here, pal?
Number 5.
We talked this a lot in our Q&A, and I'm going to go with the Looney Tunes at number 5.
Nice.
I know this might be a bit of a stretch because they're all cartoon shorts, but they have been played on TV as compilations.
That's right.
So that's, and of course, like Gexup, like loving this show, or these, these classic characters and these shorts. I also love them too. In fact, I would watch them a lot as a kid, and surprisingly, I know not a lot of my folks are crazy about, watching cartoons and stuff like that. But, seeing like my dad taking a glimpse of Looney Tunes on TV and just seeing all these characters just makes him laugh. And I just like seeing that when he's just all happy and jolly whenever he sees the Looney Tunes on TV. So, I don't know. And it's like Gexup said, like good writing, good characters, the timing for the animation is done right. And it's funny because, like, I wasn't too crazy about Looney Tunes. I know I was more into the Disney cartoons as a kid, but, of course, growing up, I just loved Looney Tunes a lot more. I know a lot of people, would probably put this higher on their list, but there are a few shorts that I either find that are not really something I would watch all the time today, nor, yeah, that's pretty much in that case, because I love, like, the Bugs Bunny cartoons. I actually like ones with, like, Daffy Duck and Porky Pig, and Elmer Fudd is good. Yosemite Sam is another. Wile E. Coyote. The only ones I probably may not go crazy about, I know this might be a favorite to some people, but I don't know, something about the Sylvester and Tweety cartoons is something, it doesn't age well for me.
Oh.
I guess it's sort of in that same shtick as, like, Tom and Jerry, where I think, like, oh, Jerry's the dick of the duo, and then I'm seeing Tweety as just, like, annoying little bugger. Like, I used to root for Tweety as a kid, but now it's the opposite. It's like, I feel sorry for Sylvester. He just wants to eat that goddamn bird, for God's sakes. And I guess maybe I have some mixed feelings about Pepe Le Pew. Like, he's a little too much sometimes, but he can throw in some humor once in a while. So, yeah, there isn't that much to say. Like, because everybody, Looney Tunes is the one that's going to come every generation.
I got nothing else to say, because if you guys want to hear what my opinion about Looney Tunes is, just go back to the beginning of this episode when we were doing the Q&As.
Yeah. I already said my words too, so it really doesn't.
So there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
My number 5. Oh my God, this. That's kind of funny, Blair. Like the darkest anime I've ever, not the darkest anime I've ever seen, but one of my favorite dark shows ever. Now, is the flip side of the coin, is one of the most joyful shows I've ever seen, and that's King of the Hill.
Of course, I knew you were going to put King of the Hill on this list.
God, this show is so much better than The Simpsons. I mean, like, for those who are going to come into the show, they're not going to get all the jokes, like the propane, the Alamo beer, drinking out in the alley, and even like Cotton Hill has no shins.
Oh yeah,
but like the more you watch the show,
and is like super racist and shit.
Yes,
but it's actually very appropriate for his character.
The more you watch the show, you will fall in love with not only the show, but also in redneck humor in general. It's not like those times where you say howdy partner all the fucking time. It's like how ingenious Mike Judge grabbed some of the jokes that he grew up from, where he came from in Texas, and just made like a huge laughing stock out of it. This show is so much better than Beavis and Butthead in my personal opinion. It's smart, it's subtle. You know, the rednecks being being as gullible as they are, and it just turned out to be the funniest thing in the world. Each of these characters embrace the Texan heritage at its most passionate and yet the most humorous. And I just really find myself watching this show time and time after again, because this show just refuses to be amusing for me. At first, this used to be the show where, like, oh, it's the show before The Simpsons comes on. And then now it turned out to be, fuck The Simpsons, we want to see King of the Hill. Seriously, it's just like, I really love, like, the gags that they come up. Like, Dale's paranoia about, like, government being a conspiracy and we're being under surveillance. Or, oh my God. Or, like, how many times in a fucking day does Hank Hill have to talk about how much he loves propane? But my favorite aspects of the show is, like, when Bobby is, like, trying to going through puberty with his best friend Connie, with his girlfriend Connie and his best friend Joseph.
Yeah.
And I really find that the most striking because it kind of reminds me of my first love, and it just like it kind of like goes back to those times of trying to understand what it means to be a man. And at the same time, Bobby's like the polar opposite of Hank, where Hank is like so serious that it's funny, and Bobby's just like a comedic goofball. You just can't help but to love. And my favorite character of this whole series, it's always a tie. Cotton Hill and Dale Gribble. My goodness, just like Cotton Hill is just like, again, like what the Rapka said, he's a completely racist, but it fits his character so perfectly. And and how many times do you? I can't describe how many times I just burst out laughing every time he comes up to a person and said, "Hey, I kill Fitty Men." and even oh man, I even impersonate the characters. It's like, gee, Hank, take a look at this. Yeah, no, take a look at beer, man.
You know what? I have to admit, I wasn't really too huge on King of the Hill, but I did watch some episodes of the show, and you know what? I remember seeing some of it, and you know what? It has some really good balance of comedy and drama, in my opinion, because there are some parts where you can laugh so much on this show, yet there are moments where the characters have their dramatic stuff, and it's there's just some. I'm going to use the word subtlety again.
Yeah, but better than calling it just subtle, I can consider that this is like the most human animated show of all time.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's another thing that I think maybe people keep forgetting.
And I remember that my animation teacher, he said that, like, why did they have to make King of the Hill animated? They could have made it a live action. Bullshit. There are a lot of things that you could not do in live action without having to fucking put CGI in there. Like, when Dale had to like kill like hundreds of roaches in his office, or or like when the World War II war memorial, and then they replaced all the World War II heroes into skeletons.
Oh wow!
And who can find anybody as ugly as Bill?
Oh, poor Bill.
Poor Bill, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, who's the guy who's like, he kind of reminds me of Beavis from Beavis and Butthead, since it is kind of a spin-off. But if he would have been an adult, but not as like completely, the guy with the glasses, what's his name? Not Dale? That guy, but Dale. Yeah, I think Dale, who has the attractive wife who is like is out of his league, and then there's the Native American guy,
John Redcorn.
They're in like who becomes like, what is it? He wants to be in a rock band, but then he becomes a children's musician
and a massage therapist. But he'll use that to get underneath Nancy's bed.
Oh no!
I also love Peggy's bickering and how much she's so egotistical that the world revolves around her. She's just like, look, Hank, windmill. Oh man, I think one of my favorite jokes from King of the Hill was like the Thanksgiving episode where they were like trying to fly off the plane to celebrate Thanksgiving with their families outside of Texas, but they ended up with a bad storm and all that stuff. but my favorite joke from that episode was like, John Redcorn was riding with Dale Gribble, and he said, "Hey, John Redcorn, does your people still celebrate Thanksgiving?" And he said, "We did, only once."
Wow.
Oh man, those are the fun times, and that's even more fucked up. That Joseph is not Dale Gribble's real son; it's John Redcorn's.
Yeah, that's true. I remember those. Those are pretty funny.
The show is just so much fun. It's so much charm.
What about Boomhauer's fast talk? Like I know that could get a bit old, but
you know what? My brother and I, we bought the DVDs.
Boomhauer.
We bought the DVDs for no other reason but to put subtitles on Boomhauer. And we're like,
Really?
is that what he said? Oh man. Oh, how can we forget about this? Min and Khan. You know, like how much we focus on the redneck culture in King of the Hill. There's always like those. We had the alternative who like rebel against the Asian culture by making fun of their miseries and failures, like Khan Jr. Don't be.
Are you doing a stereotypical Asian accent?
Khan Jr. Do not go with that Bobby Hill. That's not baby fat. That's permanent.
Oh wow! Yeah,
dude, I love King of the Hill.
So
I love King of the Hill so much that I even impersonate the characters on a daily basis. God damn.
There you go. I learned something today.
Yeah. All right. Darapka, what is the next number, please?
It should. I want to do my long Lo Wang impression. The next number is Wang. No, I'm kidding. It's number 5.
Actually, number 4.
Oh. Excuse me. You can't shut up, you racist stereotype. You're the only racist stereotype that can exist. Number 4, right?
4, yes.
It's okay.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4. I bet this is a show. This is a very underrated show for me because I only know like 2 people that know about this show, and everybody, gives me the weird look. It's like, what's that show? I'm gonna give this one to Bump in the Night.
That's the show. That's the show.
That's the one. I knew I was gonna say. I knew I was gonna say something when you guys describe it. It's like, wait a minute. Should I just save that for my top 10?
Yeah, that's the frog. I thought it was Barbie dolls, but that was actually a doll. Fuck.
Yeah, they're dolls. Yeah. They don't have they're supposed to. Yeah, but basically, Bump in the Night is sort of like. Think of it as pre-Toy Story, just done in claymation and just having live action into the mix.
Right.
So that's how I see it. Except having toys there, they add like claymation monsters and bugs into the mix. Mm-hmm. So that is my show, and the reason why I love this show is not only for its comedy. Because some of the comedy can be really good and funny to the show. Like, I even watched like some episodes on YouTube, and they kind of make me chuckle a bit. Even though some parts can get a little too hokey. But I think it's the characters as well. Like, you have the main 3. You got Mr. Bumpy, who's like the green wart monster that loves eating socks underneath the boy's bed. And just likes talking about gross things, which is kind of surprised to have something like that on a show on ABC. So he kind of reminded me a bit of he's just a very iconic character to me because I loved Jim Cummings' performance as this character. Like, I think it's his best, and I can see why Cummings won an Annie Award just because of voicing this character. And then also Mr. Bumpy has a friend named Squishington, and he's the opposite. He's like the cleaning character who's more shy, polite, more of the kind type, and voiced by Rob Paulsen, another voice actor I recognize. And they also have another character that kind of helps them, comforts them, like Molly the Comfort Doll. And she's like a great supporter. Like I've always liked female characters that that have their comforting side, and they seem like they don't look all pretty and all stuff. So she has this neutral vibe in her. There was just a lot of crazy, interesting ideas that came to like what you can do by putting these small claymation characters into a small environment like a house. And there was some crazy things that they done. Like I've enjoyed like a lot of their things. I remember there was one episode, even though I wish I could find it on the internet, but there was one where a frozen turkey comes to life. and like
Nice.
Bumpy and Squishington had to stop it, and I remember I think Mr. Bumpy said, "Peachy, Mr. Turkey," like something so quirky and random. And there were a few other ones, like Mr. Bumpy, like chasing this mitt for a sock that he found, but the mitt grabbed it, and they were just chasing this sock, like trying to fight over this sock. And you can see it on YouTube. Like I've seen it. It makes me laugh. And there was one where Mr. Bumpy takes care of a baby snail that him and Squishington found, and it's so cute because Mr. Bumpy didn't care about it. But then, like later on, he just showed some appreciation to the little snail, the baby snail. Like, well, the baby snail was a girl, so it's like it shows that Mr. Bumpy had his selfish moments, but he also can be very sweet. And I think that's what I love about these characters so much. Yeah, that's all I can say.
I haven't seen the show since, like I stopped watching, stop motion claymation when when
The incident.
Yeah, that incident. But
Yeah,
but
incident.
I'm willing to actually get back into the show sometime soon. But thanks for finally telling me what the show was, because I'm like, God, now I'm happy to know what the show, the title of the show is. Now I don't have to worry about like, where am I supposed to look for this show? Who knows about the show? Yeah.
That I might have seen it, so I don't think I've seen a full episode, but I'm looking at the wiki page and it's oddly familiar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. That's it basically. Yeah.
All right, my number 4. For those who really hate The Simpsons, feel happy that we have a show like this that still is funny since the day it was released, and that is Futurama.
Ah, yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, that's a great show.
I really think from the bottom of my heart that this show is so much better than The Simpsons, because like from the pilot episode where like Fry was transported back to the future to the year back to the future in the year 3000, and then we're seeing like Matt Groening's and the 30th Century Fox's interpretation of the 30th century. Of the year 3000. This show was just so much fun. It just refuses to stop throwing in so many ideas, and it's just like it comes up with. That just feels like there's no end to it. And I don't know how many times that the show got canceled because I don't know. Like, thank God that there's a fan base that still keeps the show alive and well. I've been a huge fan of the show when it first debuted in 1999, and when I was 9 years old, I could never stop watching Futurama because like it's more adventurous than the Simpsons.
Of course.
For crying out loud, they went to a planet. They've been in adventures like when Fry went to a planet where there's watery people and he drank their emperor.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Or when they had the parallel universe and then Bender ended up with a golden Bender who made a deal about like changing his entire armory to gold, or Flexo, or even go far as to say like when Fry lost his head and he attached it to Amy.
Oh yeah, that one.
Those are the episodes that I just really like, the fact that like, this is a show that deserves to still continue, because like the creators still has like that glimpse of hope to make people laugh and come up with the best comedy that blends very well with science fiction into a satisfying level that makes nerds like me very welcome, like it's home. And not to mention, it's just like, from where the show started out and where the show is now, it doesn't feel like it has at all changed, but at the same time, we also have characters that developed very well. Like, for example, the relationship between Fry and Leela has gotten better. Bender has became a bigger asshole than he ever has been in this whole series. And
he had some moments also where he had a softer side. I don't like that, but overall, it was pretty funny in general. Like, on one of my favorite episodes I remember is when Bender was they were like following the space pirates, and he was shot out, and he was flying with like really multiple times the speed of light, and they couldn't follow him.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he had this little culture grow on him, and then he was their god, and he was, you know, and they and then in the end they destroyed themselves with nukes, and it was just hilarious. Well, and then he bounced into a computer that bounced into God or something like that.
Yeah.
But my favorite saying was when he basically threw him back and and fell back to Earth when Bender said, "God won't do it. We have to do it ourselves." And it's like, the best God will do it so that you won't even know that he did anything. And I like that idea in general.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And man, since he mentioned his favorite episode, I think my favorite episode, oh man, it's either Snoo Snoo.
That's a great one.
I would have to go far as to say Bender's Big Score, because that was the best comeback to a show that was canceled that I've ever seen. And it's just like, I don't know, a lot of people really hate time travel, but I really think that was the best time travel you could even come up with. Because, like, I'm not spoiling anything, but it's just like, that's the best thing I can even say. That it's one of those episodes that really furthers the relationship between Fry and Leela to now a strong couple that's on and off still to this day. Alright, TMcBee, what's your favorite episode?
I guess I have to go with the Snoo Snoo episode. I mean, that did make me laugh a lot, and I did quote a lot of stuff from that. It's like, "Death by Snoo Snoo!" So,
what's the Snoo Snoo again?
That was with Zap Brannigan, Kiff, and the rest of the Futurama gang ended up in the Amazonian planet. And then,
right.
And then, like, these Amazonians, they hate men so much. But then, like, but one of the Amazonians, they ask, like, "You have men in your planet? What they for?" "Oh, you mean Snoo Snoo."
yeah.
Oh yeah, I think I remember the episode, but that one has been so long ago that
Yeah.
Man, I love.
But Zap Brannigan in general was one of the best Captain Kirk parodies I've seen ever.
Yes, big time.
Yeah.
And I still remember that we did that Zap Brannigan and Kiff impression on your episode of the Beastcast.
Oh yeah. What is it? Kiff, hand me my dish soap or some shit like that, or my ass scrubber or whatever.
Right away, sir.
That kind of that sigh of complete, like, oh, I hate my life.
Yeah.
It's and then the shit that Zap Brannigan pulls, and every time he reminds Leela that, "Aha, Leela, I had sex with you." Aha. And it's like everything. What's the worst thing about the do you remember the episode when, you know, they had the heads, like, from all these celebrities, they put them in, and they could just talk, you know, and
yeah.
I will agree that, you know, Futurama had some takes where it had some really good adventures and storytelling, and have, like, even some comedic characters. Like, there was a great cast of characters with this. Like, besides, you know, Fry and Leela and Bender. I mean, Zoidberg is funny. Lur is, like, awesome. Like, he's my favorite. So, yeah, there's just a lot of, like, great opportunities that, you know, that the writers did to this
big
show.
time. That's the reason why Futurama holds a special place in my heart. After all these years since I first watched the show, I mean, sure, there's a couple bad episodes, but they're not nowhere as low as The Simpsons are nowadays. But man,
Yeah, because The Simpsons, they just didn't know when to stop. With Futurama, I've watched
they
recently
just thrown in all the opportunities in the world, and they just made it a memorable experience.
Yep.
Right.
All right, so Derevka, next number, please.
That would be number 3.
Clone High is at number 3.
There we go. I knew it was going to be on the list.
Yeah, of course. You can read my mind, clearly. Okay, basically, for those who aren't very familiar with the show, it's basically a show about a school running by clones, teenage clones based on historical people, like Abe Lincoln and Joan of Arc and Cleopatra. And they're just run by a shadowy board of figures, as well as a scientist who's the principal and his partner who's Mr. Butlertron, who's basically like a robot butler. And just basically, this one really focuses more on comedy, character development, and it just had like kooky sense of humor that I just really enjoyed from watching the show with me and my high school friends. Like, it just brought a lot of great laughs. So basically, the main teenage clones that you'll meet in this show, well, the one is Abe Lincoln. Abe, he's kind of like the neutral kid that kind of gets into the popularity group, with Cleopatra, who's pretty much like the diva, the preppy student who, makes Abe like her. And kind of has this diva posh attitude. And then you have Joan of Arc, who's Abe's best friend, but she likes Abe, but she's kind of afraid because of her quiet gothic attitude. And then you also have other character, and then the other two is JFK, who's pretty much the jock of the group, with his pronunciations of era, like every time he talks. And then you have Gandhi, who's pretty much, he was a controversial character at the time, and that's the reason why the show got canceled at such short notice. But he was pretty much like the crazy ADD kid that kind of is pretty much like the comic relief kind of character. And it's just, for those who've seen the Lego movie and watch Clone High, we'll see where the writers or the directors from the Lego movie got a lot of their humor from. And basically, I guess it's pretty much like the tropes of what, like the typical tropes of high school, like, how they're set in certain groups. But in a way, I think it might be just like a mockery of it. Like, it's kind of like a parody of that, rather than just, being like the typical this and that. Like we've seen in other, shows and films based on like high school or universities. So, and I just really enjoyed the development of the characters so much, and just the way they're written and how their crazy humor just cracks me up even to this day. The only reason why it's at number 3, it's just like I mentioned before, it didn't end, this last episode didn't end well. So it was very open. And I've talked this about its cancellation so much, but I don't want to talk about it. So yeah,
all right.
Clone High is my number 3.
Number 3, it's another anime, and this one is one of the big all-time classics that even non-anime fans can agree is really, really excellent. I mean, excellent, not accidents.
Yeah.
All right, here it is, Cowboy Bebop.
I had a feeling that was gonna. I knew it.
It's more than just an Americanized version of anime. This is a homage to, I forgot the name of the creator, but it's a homage to some of his favorite films. I mean, some of the films from the genre, from blaxploitation to westerns to film noir, science fiction, martial arts even. This guy did, this whole entire series did a lot more homages to like many films than Quentin Tarantino's entire filmography. each episode is always like a different genre from another, but at the same time, it feels like those same 4 bounty hunters and a dog that are after a bunch of bounties out in the middle of space. And it just feels like I don't know. It's such a very profound show that didn't have that much success here in Japan because of the fact that like it didn't feel like anime. But at the same time, because it didn't feel like such an anime show, what it did was basically create a whole worldwide fame with it, with its film, with its animation, the way it wanted to tell a story with each and every episode. And not to mention, it's just like, it's so heart-filled to actually watch this show. It's almost, I don't know how to say it. It's almost like watching watching an animation trying to be live action without rotoscoping, without using CGI, or without trying to make it look like it doesn't have any cartoonish, without abandoning the cartoonish appeal that like many of us, why many of us still are animation buffs to this very day. And I just really feel like that the music really is the spirit of the show. I mean, the jazz music that's been played that plays throughout the series on each and every episode. It just feels like it was made by Americans for some odd reason, because Japan, even though there are a lot of Japanese that loves to listen to jazz and blues and big band beats, it's not really that popular here in Japan. And really? for the fact that like the creator of this anime is such a huge fan of this genre of music, it's the spirit of this whole show. It's a science fiction. It's like a science fiction show like no other. It doesn't have any aliens. It has like, it's only a huge focus on what life will be like in the future when we're setting society on Mars, and what happens when VCRs are completely out of memory and the only people who cares about them is historians, or say like oh god, there's so much terminology about the show that I can't name them all. But I'm not going to tell you what's the main story focus point, because Spike Spiegel, the main character of the show, he's trying to look for this girl, which is the reason why he joined this bounty hunter gang, outside of his thirst for money by catching these bounties. But man, this show, I gotta say that this is the show that presents anime very well to the worldwide public, more so than any other anime out there, because of the fact that like it doesn't have any of those Japanese appeal that that makes many anime skeptics feel uncomfortable to watch. It doesn't have any of those weird fan services that floods all over Japan. It just feels like a very humane show. It has magic, seriousness, and at the same time it has spunk. It has a lot of wit to it, and it just has intelligent writing that I never expected coming out from from anime in general. This is a show I highly recommend to anybody out there who's interested in anime but couldn't find a particular show that really gets them into one. And even people who already like anime, they even go as far as to say that this is the greatest anime show ever created. And for that being like released in 1998, okay, another product released in 1998, still the best year of all time, had one of the greatest animes released in this very year.
A good show for anime skeptics to get into. And I've been somewhat of an anime skeptic myself, but I've been getting more into it. But yeah, I will watch it, and what I did watch, I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. So, number 2.
Okay, number 2 are pretty close. I'm gonna add just specific seasons to this show because this show has been on forever, and I don't know when it's gonna stop. And we did talk about a bit of it. So I'm gonna give it to The Simpsons, but only from seasons 1 to 12 because those are the seasons that brought a huge impact in me watching animated sitcoms and animation or animated shows, as well as still quoting a lot from The Simpsons, especially the old school stuff, even to this day. Hell, I've met friends that still quotes to this stuff even to this day. Even I met a colleague at school who is a diehard old school Simpsons fan that, he's part of a club that, quotes all these things. So I can't, as much Simpsons as a whole isn't as great, but, seeing their earlier stuff is just what makes it, interesting, makes it comedic and smart and just have subtlety at least compared to what they're bringing out today, though. Their newer stuff is just okay in my books, but a majority of them are just downright terrible. But with the older stuff, it's just, there was just something in there that I grew up with and still would like quoting stuff from, old Simpsons to this day.
Yeah, me too, because even though I'm on the same bandwagon as you, saying like the new episodes is not doing anything for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the 90s, whenever The Simpsons is on, that's like the special moment where your life is changing when you're putting your eyes on the screen, because like once the Simpsons episode is past, good luck in trying to find this episode again until years later they come a home video, and thank God they have DVDs for that. But man, watching an episode of The Simpsons is like a life-changing experience for you. You didn't even realize how important it really was for you, for the fact that like the comedy is there, the parody that they're choosing is going to be it's going to be talked about for years to come, and even the writing is just like goddamn memorable. There's a reason why there's so many people out to this day that still quotes, remember, and forever cherish The Simpsons, because it is biblical.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It pretty much is.
I mean, there's nothing more to add about The Simpsons since we kept talking about it throughout the episode, but there's nothing more to add. But what is your favorite episode to begin with?
I don't know if I can add a favorite episode because there's just so many in my books that, it's really hard to compare, which one I like. But I do have favorite seasons, though, that I like from The Simpsons. I guess I'll have to go with a tie with seasons 4 and 5 because season 4 was the one that got me into The Simpsons at a very young age, surprisingly. I was around 4 the first time, or 5 the first time I watched The Simpsons. Very young, even though my dad didn't like the fact that me and my sister didn't like watching The Simpsons because he didn't really like Homer's role model of being lazy and burpish. But me and my sister didn't care. We still watched The Simpsons anyways. So, and then season 5, I think that's where, and also like season 5 because like season 5 just had a lot of episodes I remembered the most and would quote a lot from, and basically it was just like the show like getting into great popularity compared to maybe season 1, which some people have mixed feelings for its clunky animations at the time. So I just say those seasons are my favorites.
I mean, I love The Simpsons, but I'm also in the same opinion that the first seasons are my favorite. I think I like actually the first episode with Santa's Little Helper. In Germany, it was called Knecht Ruprecht. Which is it's a different. It's from the German. It's one that makes sense in the sense that it is Santa's helper, but the point is the episode was really heartwarming and it was a really good introduction. And I think I loved one of the episodes where you had the guy that sounded like Michael Jackson.
Oh yeah.
And when Lisa, it's your birthday, happy birthday, Lisa. You know, it has been years, probably more than a decade that I've seen this episode, and I still remember that
That's
to
right.
this
Yeah.
day. And I liked also, what is it? Freaking! I liked the episode with Bart where they parodied when Mortal Kombat came out and how the kids got crazy for it. Was like, was it blood splatter? You know, because a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
games were copying Mortal Kombat, so it was a trend. And how Marge didn't want it. Marge didn't want it to buy it for Bart, and then, but it was cool because they showed the kid, like he said, "Wow, it's so cool. Your mom does everything for you." But then they showed how the kid was, and I liked that because on the very end, because my mom was kind of like that. Like there was a lot of movies and games I would have wanted, but she would have never allowed it. And
Mhm.
I remember I enjoyed when Marge got him the golf game. And on the end, he was like, "Well, I might as well enjoy it, you know." And then he kind of imagined like, and he looked at the game. He's like, "Well, Bart, I will show you how golfing goes," or some shit like that. And it ended in such a positive note that I wanted to get the golf game for NES, but I didn't. It was a lot of time. It was my childhood. It was my teen years. For a long time, I used to come home and watch Simpsons, and then after a while, I just didn't care anymore because it was like it kind of lost its soul. I think the last thing that I enjoyed about The Simpsons was the movie. Other than that, like I've seen one or two episodes of the newer seasons. The only one I think I enjoyed, and I haven't seen a lot, but the only one I enjoyed was the one where they were playing an MMORPG, and
Oh,
and
I think I know what you're talking about.
and I loved it because it was like Bart was like the dark knight that terrorized everybody, and then Marge came. She started playing, and I remember how she like bought like the Hello Kitty stuff for his house and decorated, and said, "Mom," but it said, "Well, all these nasty skulls and like things, they weren't very nice, so I made it nice, and it was like." It's so funny because like whenever I tell my mom about like fantasy role playing games or shit, she's like, "Oh, this is so terrible," and blah blah blah. But it's something I could relate to. I think in general, when you look at Simpsons has started basically, and there's a lot of more shows that got created because of Simpsons, and I think The Critic is one of them. There's another show that I enjoy.
Hell, even Adult Swim, they wanted to do do a lot more than The Simpsons has left off.
Yeah.
Adult Swim has definitely can thank a lot to The Simpsons. I mean, you got now Bob's Burgers. I've only seen the first episode. I didn't really like it, but there's another show that I like much more that is very underappreciated when we're talking about underappreciated shows, and that was Ugly Americans. And
Yes.
you have a
That's-
social worker and all the creatures of myth, fantasy, and aliens. Everything exists, and they're like they're basically like the immigrants, But he's the social worker instead of like.
But I think we've talked about enough about The Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about it. All right,
Yeah.
my number 2 favorite animated show. It's a very special one, and this is the last anime I'm actually putting this one on the list. This was my Game of Thrones back in the mid 2000s, and that's an anime called Berserk.
Oh.
Oh yes.
It's kind of the barbarian mixed with Game of Thrones. And the thing that I love about this anime is the fact that like this anime is all about friendship, trust, relationships, and the will to accomplish dreams. And I really find myself feeling like this is not only just any ordinary anime. This is philosophical for me.
Oh.
The way that the characters interact with each other and they give out like a message to his audience, it feels like nothing could be said better. You just really want to like use that philosophy of life and put it as yours. I still will remember to that one part of that anime where like the main character Guts was trying to get up to his best friend, who was also the leader of this army called the Band of Hawks, where his name is Griffin.
Griffin, yes.
And he said that like a man who just wakes up just for the sake of living is not living at all, but a man who who spends another day to accomplish his dream is life. and I'm like, wow, this is so poetic. And it's just the fact that like this anime just has some of the best characters I've ever seen. You know, cast of characters that I've ever seen in animation. Such deep characters that feel like you really want to have a conversation with. You got characters that, you know, that that feels that the world revolves around them. That he thinks that like anybody who is better should be dead. Or the main character Guts, who is like a wild animal, who's who was all alone by himself, didn't have a sense of purpose until he finally found his best friend Griffith. And Griffith, you know, even though he does look like he looks like a woman, but I just really like the fact that like he's by far
he's a super duper Bishonen, that's what he is. But he's a cool one.
Even though Griffith is my favorite character, I think the one character that will stand out as like the most interesting out of the bunch would have to be his assistant, Casca, you know, who turned out to be Griffith's love interest. But you got this variety of characters that have like their own way of fighting and wanting to help. They revolve around to this one character, Griffith, who is so in need to accomplish this dream of becoming king. But because he's not royalty, he has to gain the royalty, you know, the kingdom's trust by helping them win wars and all that stuff. And they do all they can to actually win like the bloodiest of battles and fight some of the deadliest warriors right in front of them. Man, I know that this anime, it's it's like Elfen Lied, where it's one of those animes that has an anticlimactic ending, and it's one of those endings that says you have to read the manga. But from episodes 2 all the way to like say like 24 before we saw that fucked up the anticlimactic ending.
It was a great ending though, because it fucking kicked you in the balls basically.
And I know my brother really says that that's the worst ending ever, and I said, you haven't played Mass Effect 3. And you know what I said? I said to himself that, like, if you threw away that there's an existence of manga, you can actually see that this is the anime that everybody gets what they deserve. But it's another one of those shows that doesn't really have a good animation quality. The budgeting looked like it's cheap.
I don't know what
it's
what
cheap,
is,
but
what is...
let me add up here. But with all the down, you know, the quality, you know, the lacking of quality it has in the animation department and the visual standpoint, the one thing that this anime has is probably one of the strongest bondage of characters that I can really come up with, because the way they interact with it really feels like they're a family more than just an army of troopers that are just trying to help their leaders' dream to come true. When you saw like how these characters are going through and they interact and how much passionate they are about like following dreams, it just makes you so eager to like follow your own dreams. It also makes you feel like you're happy that this anime gave you the message about like what you need to do with your life, and then like after finishing the anime, without, you know, getting upset with the ending, you can actually say to yourself that like, I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to have this opportunity to actually follow this thing called dreams that gives us a purpose of existence from the get-go. It just like it makes you feel appreciative that you know, found something that's truly special. Man, this show is so meaningful for me. For it to be number 2 and for me, it's a very meaningful pick for me, because of the fact that like this anime is just magical. I mean, like the Rabka, you know Guts' theme, where you know you heard like this angel like voice that's singing after this piano tune. Remember that one?
Dude, it has been years that I watched. I don't remember that per
yeah,
se.
If you take a look on YouTube, it's just type down Guts' theme. But when I first listened to that, it just pulled me right into the anime and said, I gotta watch the whole show. I don't care what's it all about, but this music soundtrack motivated me to actually keep watching, and then it's turned out to be one of the best things I've ever seen on front of a television screen. And
Wow.
that's how much Berserk really means to me. I did read the manga, and the manga is just as good as the anime, but for some odd reason, like from the journey from like knowing what the Griffith had to go through to in order to accomplish Dream and the sacrifices he had to make, I think that's more important. That's more important than him to be than Guts being the Black Swordsman, if you ask me.
Oh.
I really like his origin story, but I have been reading some of the manga too, and it is actually somewhat different. Anyway, but I'm not going to go into that. What the differences are. The thing is, what I think. I watched it. I really enjoyed it. I don't have a problem with the animation. I think a lot of people are really spoiled by the super sharp animation that they have for anime and in general cartoons today. Whereas in the shows back in the day, they didn't have all this computer tech, and I think I actually like the animation style for that. I don't think it's a because I can see this was drawn by hand and shit. Like there's some times where I would have liked to see a little bit more animation in the fights.
Mm-hmm.
But, I do understand maybe, yes, if you compare it with shows today, it doesn't look as, like, vibrant or the animation is not as flowy, but I think it's because simply they didn't have as advanced technology as you have today.
Yeah.
They actually have started making a new Berserk show that apparently will adapt all the manga.
Yeah, and this is the reason why, like I said that, like, I said that, like, I didn't, the budgeting of the anime doesn't look good. The problem about the movie here, it's just that they can't make a decision of, like, they want to make a CGI or is it one a traditional, and it's just like it bounces back and forth to both of those things that it just got really messy. And it's definitely a show that I highly recommend to everybody. It's my favorite anime ever.
Number 1.
Oh my god, this may be a shocker to some people, but this is like, it's like with The Simpsons. The Simpsons brought a huge impact in my life. I think this next show showed much more impact in my life than The Simpsons did. I'm giving this one to South Park at number 1.
Nice.
It's a shocker to some people. Some people will say, that's awesome that you did that. And some will be like, but that show is so immature and dumb and blah, 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 blah. No, I think there's more to South Park than just, fart jokes and immature humor. I know in the first season it was dumb jokes. But South Park changed in terms of having a lot more political, like, references and just stuff that targets towards the media that people can relate to, that people know about and can poke fun of that or, address it. Maybe to those who are not even following the media, this is like their other information, this show to watch. But I also like the characters too. They're very comedic, even though they have their offensive takes at times. But I still get some great laughs from how Trey Parker and Matt Stone bring these characters to life. And they play majority of these characters, except, the female roles and other roles that, that they didn't lend their voice to. Like, sometimes I enjoy the adventures with the 4 boys of Stan Marsh, or Cal Brofsky, or Eric Cartman, or even they throw in some other kids like Butters. Like I enjoy the craziness that, these 4th graders, they used to be 3rd graders, but now they're 4th graders, going into these crazy adventures in this suburban forest-like town. And that just makes me love South Park so much. And even to this day, I'll still watch new episodes. And while some can be okay, like we mentioned before, not every show has like the best episodes ever. But there's still some episodes and jokes that they pull out that'll make me laugh even to this day.
I must say I loved South Park pretty much from the beginning. I used to have a Kenny T-shirt. I don't know what happened to it. I used to watch. I really love also the old episodes, and some of the characters have faded out, or like the whole controversy with the actor who played Chef and everything.
Isaac.
Isaac Hayes, and I'm really sad because Chef was kind of one of the main staples, and then they made Chef into a villain, and it was just kind of sad. But the point is that, yep.
Oh, well, I was just saying, Chef left the show because they made fun of Scientology.
I know.
So-
It was about Scientology, but the thing is that I love it because they're actually taking risks, and they talk about topics that are important, but they have a great sense of humor where I really like that they can really combine the lowbrow humor with the highbrow humor and like their political messages. Sometimes it's a little bit like they lay it on thick, but not as much as like freaking Family Guy, because Family Guy lays it on thick like pretty much all the freaking time. Whereas and a lot of times Family Guy is just, even they said it in South Park where they try to stop the episode where Muhammad appears, where Cartman says, no, this is like the storylines and the comedy like work together. Yeah.
It's a show that I was young when I watched it, but but surprisingly I was able to sneak in my way to watch South Park. So I guess it's just one of the first animated shows for adults only that I appreciated. So there you go.
Nice.
Yep.
All right. And now for my number one. There are like 5 things in the world that are like the most important entities for me. And that's Terminator 2. And that's also the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book series. Also, my PlayStation 2. And finally, the WWF Attitude Era, my favorite times of professional wrestling. But what enters there as my 5th favorite entities of all time is actually my favorite animated program ever. And that's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, of course. I totally forgot about that choice, to be honest.
I realized that there are more adults watching cartoons than any other generation in history. And I'm really surprised that this is the one cartoon that was so awesome that this is the bridge between, like, for children to enjoy and also adults to also enjoy as well. Before, I used to not like Nickelodeon because they keep showing fucking SpongeBob SquarePants non-stop. It's just like, it's at the point where, like, I can impersonate Patrick without even giving out effort. Oh, geez, SpongeBob, I didn't know you could do that. Fuck. It's funny because, like, my best friend, Highwings89, he introduced me to the show and he said, Oh, come on, dude. Nickelodeon isn't always about SpongeBob. There's a show that was called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And when I finally got a chance to watch the show that was on Nickelodeon out here in Japan, damn. I remember that there was the episode, I was pretty shocked that there was a pregnant character in a children's cartoon who needed help to actually get to the city called Bajijiang. That was my first episode. And the end of that episode, she was on labor and she was giving on birth. And it was just like, that was a special moment where, like, the child was born. And our character's motivation, he felt like there was no sense of hope until that child was born and he realized that there is hope. And then from there on out, the show just got better and better. And I'm just surprised that I can actually say that each and every episode in that show, you're going to find this pretty interesting to say it, but there is not a single bad episode in Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm really surprised that, like, it's written by Americans, it's animated by Koreans, and it has a worldwide fame across the world. And I'm shocked that, like, this American-made product has, tried to promote the Asian fantasy genre and did justice to it. And it's just like, I remember, like, when I was watching this in high school, this was like my biggest highlight to get through high school, because like throughout my I got into the show in my junior year, and then like when the season finale was the series finale was happening on the third season. That's the one show that helped me get through high school, because like high school is such a fucking mundane place. But when you have a show like Avatar that gets you so excited to wake up the next day just to live long enough just to see the finale of the episode. High Wings, Amuya, and I really wish they made it in this episode, but we talk about the show nonstop. And there was a lot of guys from my high school that were also big fans of the show, that we somehow created like a club based on the show, because this is just the show that just does everything effortlessly, and it just creates like a sense of joy for me. It's just like we live now in an age where there's so much disappointments, like the Star Wars prequels, bad adaptations, bad news happening on the news every single day. But then there's at least one entity like Avatar: The Last Airbender that brings us a lot of joy in us. It has a warm feeling to it because there's not too much violence in it. It's pure action. It has a nice blend of phenomenal storytelling, philosophical messages, and even wonderful humor whenever they're trying to throw in some. I mean,
yeah. Not to mention there's some colorful animations in that show too, which I'll admit they look really fantastic.
I gotta say, if it wasn't for Akira, I would have to say that Avatar: The Last Airbender is a definite second as the best animation I've ever seen. I'm completely stunned that this is a show that impressed me, that did more than just impress me. It astonished me. It feels like it just makes me feel whole when I watch the series from the beginning all the way to the very end. That continues to get better and better. Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I could say that, like, if you haven't seen the show, or even at least one episode of it, you haven't lived yet. It is by far one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. And I know a lot of people are asking me what's my opinion of The Legend of Korra. The first season was great. The second season is already sucking ass, and I hope that it can pick itself back up. But we're talking about just three seasons on a singular show. Had like the best animation and production quality. Great voice acting, even from child voice actors who were doing the voice for each and every one of those characters. They did a stellar job. The directing in this show it's very consistent. And then like by the time we get to the finale of the show, where Aang starts fighting the Fire Lord. Damn. This is like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It's like seeing a volcanic erupt, and you're just being amazed at like, how does the lava flow turn into stone? It's like each episode is like another volcanic eruption. You just can't wait to have it happen, and then like it just goes boom, boom, boom. The characters are so phenomenal. I mean, like Aang, he's a great Buddhist figure. Katara is like a phenomenal female character who would do anything to protect Aang with all her costs. Her brother Sokka is like the funniest comedic character in a serious show ever. And I think the best Zuko, who's actually like the son of the main villain of the series, who's like the prince of the villains. I mean, the Prince of the Fire Nation, where basically it's just like he's gone through so much. He has gone through so much regret throughout his life, and it's just like it's up to him to make the choice of either decide to join the good guys or continue to fight the bad guys and not have the same result, the same promises and expectations out of life. But damn, if there's anything that this show really needs to do, it doesn't need to do anything else, because it did everything that I really want to see in a show. And still to this day, I don't think that there will ever be I'm not having any doubt that there will be a show better than this one, but this show was so amazing that I can even say that it's one of my favorite things in the world, period. And it just makes me so happy to consider myself an animation buff after all of these years since I first watched DuckTales at the mere age of, when I'm not even age 1. So basically, this was like the best thing in the world for me. So I think this concludes our final episode of the Legit Animation Podcast. Wouldn't you say, TMcBee?
Yeah, like no, we're like I understand that with Legit, we came a little too late, and all of us have just busy schedules at this point. But you know what? We're not gonna but just because the Legit vibe ended with 5 episodes in the podcast version. I think the blog version will still continue that legend.
Oh, one more thing. I'm also surprised that both of our lists, TMcBee and I have made, they're different from one another. I don't think we had a similar show pick.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, now that you mentioned it, our shows were so much different, and it's interesting how yours was more have this meaningful philosophy, adventurous kind of trope, while mine was more, I guess, comedic stuff, but also throws in some adventurous stuff too along the way. So it's interesting how the two of us have different personalities and such, that we can throw our opinions and accept it.
Alright, so TMcBee, you want to close out this episode?
Is that the case? Yeah, I'll say, thank you all for listening!
Legit!
What? Yeah,
Legit!
Legit.